Having a quorum present, we will begin the August 3rd meeting of the Single Family Design Board. Will you take the roll, please?
Woolery is absent. Mosel, later absent. Deisler.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Bernstein.
She's standing out there talking, selling a piece of real estate.
Zink.
Here.
Mahan.
Here. Thank you. I'll open up a public comment now. Oops, I'm on the wrong thing. Any member of the public may come forward and address the board on any item that's not on our agenda. Seeing no one coming forward, I'll close public comment, and we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of August 3rd. And by the way, I gave the wrong date because I had the minutes in front of me. This is the meeting of August 17th. But we will move on to the approval of the minutes of August 3rd.
I'll make a motion.
Is there any additions or corrections? I have a couple. On page 4, item 1, I guess it is, in the motion, where it says, restudy the architecture for location on Lot 5, give special consideration to problems associated with digging down the garage. I thought we gave very, very specific directions to restudy the architecture in terms of the architecture which was presented was not acceptable. The curved roof was not acceptable. The shininess of it was not acceptable, etc. It was it didn't meet the criteria of neighborhood compatibility.
I would say break that one item into 2 points because there also was a concern about digging into the
Yes.
garage after building all that soil.
I agree. It should be two separate sentences. And then the other one that I have is back here at the end somewhere. There it is. On page 9, item 7, comment number 2, simplify the north elevation entrance and double gable. Was the north elevation the one that had kind of the funny? Was the north elevation the one that faced Paul? That faced toward the house with the skylight?
Yes, that was
so.
north.
It was simplify the north elevation. Period. And then I think we also wanted the entrance to be with the double gable to be studied.
Correct. So two different items.
Yeah, 2 different items. Those are my comments. Anything else? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bernie, you'll abstain. And you'll abstain on that one item, I think.
I'll abstain on item 7, yes.
Yeah. Okay, now let's move on to the consent calendar, August 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For consent last week, August 10th, we had item A, 2190 Mount Calvary Road, final approval of the architecture and continued indefinitely for the landscape plan.
Pass that down, Bernie.
Item B, 1985 Stanwood Drive, final approval as submitted of the landscape plan. Item C, 545 Conejo Road, final approval as submitted of the architecture and continued indefinitely for landscaping. Item D, 1105 Los Alturas Road was continued 1 week. Item E, 27 Rubio Road, final approval with condition. Item F, 1525 Las Canoas Road, final approval as submitted. Item G, 1507 Alameda Padre Serra, final approval with condition. Item H, 2310 Skyline Way, preliminary approval with conditions. Consent last week was reviewed by Glenn Deisler, and landscaping for items A, B, C, and D reviewed by Aaron Carroll.
Okay. Is there a motion for approval as read? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, let's move on to the minutes of August 17th.
All right.
Consent calendar.
Yeah, consent calendar today, August 17th. We had item A, 1105 Los Alturas Road, final approval is submitted. Item B, 10 Eland Place was continued to the staff hearing officer. Item C, 722 Calle Alea, final approval as submitted. Item D, 2923 Lomita Road, final approval with conditions. Item E, 3339 Cliff Drive, final approval with conditions. Item F, 68 Alameda Padre Serra, final approval with conditions. On consent today was reviewed by Glenn Deisler with landscaping for items A through E, reviewed by Aaron Carroll.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? I'll second. All right. It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed? So ordered. Announcements? Do we have any announcements, Tony?
Only that Denise Woolery will be absent today.
Okay. We'll miss her.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
I have two announcements. I'll be stepping down on the last item today,
Okay.
and I am going to be on vacation for the next 2 weeks.
Is that a request to be...
No, it's not a request. It's an announcement.
What kind of a company do you think this is? Well, we'll miss you. We'll miss you. Okay. Do we have a backup for landscape for the consent calendar? He's going to be gone for 2 weeks.
Denise Woolery usually fills in when Aaron can't attend consent
does?
calendar. Denise.
Denise, and she's not here today. Is she on vacation?
I don't know.
I've heard her back.
I think she might
hurt
be
her
ill.
back.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if she's watching, we hope that she gets better. Okay, well, that's a consideration that we'll have to. I guess we can. The landscape issues could be continued on the consent calendar if they had to be.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for giving us that notice. Subcommittee reports. I don't think we have any subcommittees working on anything. So let's move on to item number 1, which is 1304 Crestline Drive. This is a proposal for a first and second story addition and replace the existing sloped roof with a flat roof for an existing 2,700 square foot two-story single-family residence, including a 400 square foot attached garage on a 10,600 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District. The proposal includes 400 square foot addition to the first floor, 200 square foot addition to the second floor, and a 650 square foot roof deck on top of the first floor with exterior stairs, a 42 square foot second story deck, a rear patio and swimming pool. Staff hearing officer approval of the modification is requested. Have you gone to the staff hearing officer yet?
No, and that's why I'm here today,
Oh.
because we didn't specifically address the mod when I was here last time.
Okay, the modification is requested for alterations to the side setback. The proposal of 3,200 square feet has a FAR of 84%. This is a second concept review. Comments only. Project requires an environmental assessment and staff hearing officer approval of the modification. So we could be sending recommendations to the modification hearing officer if we choose to do that. So if you'd like to introduce yourself,
I'm Dawn Sherry. I'm the architect for the project.
welcome.
Thank you. And I just got some survey information from the surveyor on Friday. So I have a revised site plan that addresses the modification and the specific request for alterations within the setback that we're requesting for the existing structure. If you wouldn't mind me using that site plan. And I have 3 of them.
Okay.
The survey information's in the light gray. And I'd like to address that first, if it's all right, if I could talk about that first.
Please do.
And then I have a list of the last minutes, and I can review those one by
Oh,
one.
okay. Well, let's go over the minutes. Our usual
Okay.
procedure is we do the minutes first, and then
All
we'll
right.
move on to the...
Okay, this project was last heard on August 18th, 2008, approximately a year ago.
Oh, that long ago?
Time flies by, doesn't it?
There are 10 items. Item 1, provide photographs from Modoc Road towards the proposed infinity pool. 2, study relocating the deck fireplace. 3, provide screening walls at both sides of the second floor deck to provide privacy for neighbors. 4, provide screening along stairway. 5, the flat roof contemporary style is acceptable. Provide additional details. 6, study the stone and the amount of glass at the garage. 7, study the window proportions at the east elevation. 8, study the parapet height to conceal the solar panels. 9, unified and simplified the first floor trellises. 10, glass railing is not acceptable.
Okay,
All right.
site plan then first.
So the photographs from MoDOC, we tried to get some, but what we did was we brought this in to show you where the site is.
Okay.
There's Las Positas and there's MoDOC. And these trees are so tall that you can't see the site from anywhere around here. I suppose you could see it from...
This is the school over here. This is MoDOC. They're looking toward the ocean.
School is here, and these are the apartments.
Well, the school's over here. Yeah, there's the yeah,
Those
right.
are the apartments.
Yeah, this is Pine Avenue or something right up in here. They're right there. So yeah, so there it is. You can't see it
No, you can't see
because
it
of all
from
these
anywhere.
trees.
So
There's that condominium right there. Yeah, this is really steep and densely forested.
Okay.
So
Okay,
and
well,
here's
that
a
answers that
close-up
question.
version of our site, again with that densely forested
Mm-hmm.
area. And we, I sent somebody out and they said, Don, I would be giving you a photograph of trees, and so I didn't want to make them go all the way to like upper state to take a photo back. It just was too far away. So.
Right. Okay.
and it was because of
you've
this
answered that
retaining wall.
question. So we're not worried about what this thing
All
looks
right.
like from the road because
And-
you can't ever see it from the road.
Right, and I think the question was brought up because of this retaining wall and this infinity edge of this pool, but this wall isn't going to be more than 3 feet tall at that edge. And then the slope continues to go down. So the fireplace deck, the comment was study relocating the deck fireplace.
Well, before you get off the site plan, what's this thing about the mod? You were going to talk about the
Oh,
mod.
I can do that now.
Yeah, let's talk about the
Okay.
mod.
It's the west property line, which is here, and right now this wall of the existing house, which is bold, is within the setback, and it's 7.5 from this corner and 7.6.5 from
And
here.
that's a 10-foot setback.
It's a 10-foot setback, and all we're doing, the mod basically covers
Changing
2
it.
windows and 3 windows on this existing wall.
That's an existing fireplace.
And that's no, this is a new fireplace that we're adding, and I can show you the floor plan.
But that would be in the mod too.
But and I can show you here. These are the 2 windows that right now in the living room there are no windows on the west elevation, so we wanted to get light. So we picked up on the same long and tall windows, and then these windows mirror the front 3 windows, so it would be a corner in that study. So this is the existing window. So the mod involves
Yeah.
3 windows to replace 1 and 2 new windows. The stairs are not in the setback. None
got-
of the new addition is in the
We got it.
setback. So that's the mod.
Okay.
So
Now we can go on with the other
the
stuff.
last time you saw the project, there was a fireplace in the corner of the upper level deck, and we have since relocated that. This deck previously came across like this at the 10-foot setback line, and the fireplace was in the corner. So what we were asked, because of the rule to try to stay 15 feet away from the west property line for the neighbors, we were requested to pull the upper level deck back. So what we did was we only have a landing there. It's not usable deck, and this dimension is 15 feet now. Go back to this really quick. This dimension is now 15 feet,
Okay.
and this is just a landing. And the fireplace that was in this corner is now relocated to here, which also provides screening, because this is the most usable portion of the deck for congregating, because the pool's back here.
Plus those columns.
Plus these columns in this trellis that I've added above there. And then, so that was relocating of the deck fireplace.
Okay.
This is a wall, and then this is a wall with, this is a partial wall with glass, because before we were going to be required to remove it, but I'd really like to, if at all possible, keep the portion of the glass railing. It's not an entire glass railing, it's
Just
just
that
the
little bit right
top
there.
portion that runs around that still gives them privacy on the deck, but is appropriate for the contemporary nature of the project, we felt. And we felt that because it was so little amount that we were hoping we could get support for that. The third item was provide screening at both sides of the second floor deck.
This doesn't show the fireplace.
Because it's just a short, it's a vent-free gas fireplace, so it's just a short,
So it's just that little one there?
And no chimney.
and no chimney. So it's not, they're not going to burn wood up there, they don't want to haul wood up there. It's just a little gas fireplace. So by pushing it back, that was providing the screening, but in addition, I wanted you to see the cross-section through the site so that you could see the neighbor to the west and how he was here at the last meeting, which was quite some time ago. And we had done a visibility study from the neighbor. This shows how much lower he is from our deck and how there's a 6-foot fence. This is the neighbor to the west, and this shows the new fireplace that we're adding for the living room. But this shows the new trellis up above and how far back we are now, 15 feet. So his yard is so much lower that we felt that we were providing an adequate amount of privacy. And
Is that your property line right there?
yes,
So he's at what, about 12 feet there or something?
and this is there's two windows on his. Let's see, where is it? These are upper level windows here, these small upper level windows on his house. This is the outline of his house. And they're really up in the front yard area, and then there's the 6-foot high fence,
Okay.
which kind of segues into item 4, which was provide screening along the stairway. And I looked at that, and it was this area where we have a cable railing, and this wall just looked a little imposing when I added a plaster wall to it. I can do that, but because we have a 6-foot wall to here anyway, it didn't really feel like it was doing anything for privacy. And it's not as if somebody's going to be hanging out on the stairs looking over at the neighbor as they go up and down the stairs. But because of this 6-foot high wall fence that was right at the property line, covering it to here, it was just this little portion that would be required to be screened. I just didn't like it. I didn't like the wall being that tall. Number 5 says the flat roof contemporary style is acceptable. Provide additional details. At this time, we haven't provided any because we're still in concept review, and it's just going to be a really simple metal flash at the top. Or we're open to also doing, it'd be much cleaner if we could do the hidden flashing as well. But since we're in concept, I didn't address that comment. That one can be carried forward, as well as item number 8, which says study the parapet height to conceal solar panels. That's something that we'd like to address as we get further into the drawings.
Is that the parapet right
Yes. So then moving on to item 6, it was a comment based on the amount of stone that we were doing at the entry and the garage and as it wraps around. And what we've decided to do is wrap it. And before we were only bringing it to here, but I'd like to wrap it a little farther to incorporate the 2 existing windows in the garage and then just return it. It's a 6-inch veneer, stone veneer, that I'd like to just add. And it just looked better to not end it right at the line of the existing upper level. The next item was study the window proportions at the east elevation, and those were...
No, this is the west.
Oh, that's the
It's
west
the other
side of
elevation.
Oh, yeah. So we did look at those. There's already an existing 2-story,
Yeah, that's where we
but
were.
it just, I don't even remember what it looked like before. But I think we had a pop-out from here to here, a little pop-out that incorporated that door. but we couldn't do the pop-up because we realized we were too close to the setback, and we just added a little trellis to define that door as you come around to the side so you know where it was. This is the garage door. This is the addition. This is all existing, but we are slightly altering the windows here, and then just for privacy, we kept the window at the new addition to be a long, higher ribbon window.
Are these all fixed glass? All of these?
No,
All fixed
this
glass?
one will be, but there's a door on the other side for egress. But these are bathroom windows. Here and here, they'll be operable. This is an existing bedroom. This is that high ribbon window.
Well, you know, when I did my house, they wouldn't let me use doors for ventilation unless they had the, you know, the swinging, the Santa Barbara door with the screen in it. So is that something you want to think
Okay,
about
we
here?
can look at that. But
Yeah,
that's
they
good
would. They would
information.
say, no way. I had to solve that problem in a different way.
Okay, good to know. To be determined. The operability of those east-facing windows. Number 8 was the parapet height, concealing the solar panels, and number 5. Number 9 was unify and simplify the first floor trellises, and I don't remember exactly what that comment referred to. I was trying to remember who made the comment.
It was the back elevation here.
And
I think you're right.
I've made the
What's the
back
rear
elevation
rear elevation?
here. And you're right, Paul. I think it was referring to this particular trellis, but I still like that trellis because it breaks up my my wall. So they're as simple as I can make them. I don't really know what was complicated about them or why that comment was made, but I still want the relief and I want the vines growing up over those doors. So, but I think it might have been that particular trellis. And then the glass railing issue was at the time absolutely
this
not
little thing
acceptable.
there. Well, you had more glass railing before.
I did?
Was it just a little strip
No,
glass?
I think it was.
Just a little strip? Okay. I think we got it. Tony, do you have anything on this?
No staff comments, Mr. Chair.
Do we have any letters of opposition?
We do have one letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
We have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury. Okay, I'm going to open up public comment. Anybody like to address the board on this particular item should come forward now. I see no one coming forward, so I'll close public hearing. It is to the board for your questions and or your comments. I think we've already settled the issue that this contemporary house is compatible in this neighborhood, that the size, bulk, and scale is acceptable. So I guess we are to the proverbial color of the shutters. I had a question that I will start off with here. If I can look at the second floor plan. Here, this glass, I mean, assuming that the board accepts the little strip of glass here, and the way that, where's your elevation? The way that that glass comes in here, I think it would be benefited to have this be a little bit higher. So if that cap is acceptable, you know, the glass would come in under that cap.
That's absolutely fine. It's a detail I hadn't gotten to yet.
That this line along here maybe
absolutely.
would be beneficial, maybe even to break that and get that up, so that glass comes into it and there's something there to receive it. So that was not only a question but a comment.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Bernie.
I
You-
guess I'm on. Yeah, can you refresh my memory because I don't remember.
You probably need to get your microphone up higher, though.
It's
it
up,
is up
yeah.
there? Okay.
I don't remember really this project very much, and it's been a year. And I guess as we approved the design as being
Well,
the contemporary is appropriate.
I think what the minutes show was The flat roof contemporary style is acceptable. I think what that does is the board, majority of the board gave the applicant a direction to proceed with refining the details and stuff. We found it acceptable.
And Bernie, it's existing flat roof, and it's a contemporary. You know how in that neighborhood
Do you
there's
have any of the old pictures of it?
several homes? Yeah.
It doesn't look anything like this.
I don't remember. I mean, I remember.
There's one particular design in that subdivision that was a flat roof, 70s style.
Yeah, this one is not.
Contemporary.
This one isn't flats. This you're going to take off a sloping roof and put on a.
This is the property, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. We didn't have a flat roof, but we never felt that the gable roof was appropriate for that house anyway because of the stone going up, and that's why we chose that. And also, the main reason was because of the solar panels.
There are.
You're right, Bernie. It wasn't a flat roof.
No, it wasn't a flat roof, but there are some flat roof houses. In fact, I think we approved one over on the other side of Portezuelo, a single story, very nice contemporary, sort of like a New Mexican contemporary. And there are others in this subdivision, which is on both sides of Portezuelo. The contemporary flat roofed houses are exception, but they're there, and I think if they're done tastefully, they should be acceptable. And I think the board has already given that direction. So it was a year ago, though, so if your memory fails you, that's reasonable. We're a board member. So are we ready to make some comments? Paul?
I'll jump into the comment, the front elevation. Don, this is coming along, and I don't have a problem with the flat roof the way it's designed. And I'm staring at the stonework, and I guess I don't have a problem with going on to the staff hearing officer, and you can address this or think about this. But if this is all one plane right here, and it's not quite working in my mind as a stone masonry built object. I know this is contemporary architecture, but still, this is reading as a certain mass going up. And if we had a mass that went up here that was stone and other things were adjacent to it, just study this area, and I'll just leave it open and as vague as that.
Can I follow up on that? Is this just a flush thing here?
The veneer is coming on the outside of the existing garage.
So in plan, what do we have there?
It's a 6-inch. It'll end up
6.
being a 6-inch return.
But this deck here, this part and the face of the garage are basically flush.
Maybe this.
I can't do that because it would require a mod, another mod.
It's in the front yard setback.
It's in the front yard setback.
Well, you're going to go on for a mod anyway, but architecturally, it seems to me like then this stone element has a reason for being there and being, and it stops in it.
Well, maybe the stone doesn't want to come higher than this point, and then I pick it up with
Stucco.
plaster.
But then would you be able to push this plaster plane back a little bit so you would get a little bit of relief?
I think I can.
Be on the second floor, wouldn't it?
Just making that deck smaller.
Is this the deck here?
Yeah.
That's a pretty small deck already.
What about glass? Would the board be open to this glass being in place of the stone? Because I agree with what you're saying, that came across, it would look more monolithic. And
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to jump in with a couple of comments before we start jumping into the specific materials, if I could. I guess it's a done deal that you approve this style and you think it fits the neighborhood. I have a lot of reservations about this design for the neighborhood, but I'm willing to consider going along with it. However, I think the exterior stairs and I think the deck, which is 652 square feet on the roof, along with another deck. I don't find that there's any other homes in the neighborhood that have that sort of large outdoor living areas. And, you know, we had the problem with being covered, and that makes me uncomfortable. And because it's 84% of the maximum FAR, we don't have the 20 closest homes study either, and the house is 3,216 square feet. So there's a combination of a lot of things about this project I think we should look more closely at. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, let's get back to this garage thing and see if we can come to a resolution of what is appropriate here, or is this acceptable?
I don't know if we need to come up with a solution, because I don't think we can't give it preliminary today.
Okay.
So it's more like we see something and she mildly understands or sees it too, so there's opportunities.
Which bedroom is it? What's
Master.
This is the master bedroom?
Yeah, and I just changed my mind about that being glass, not wanting glass, because it's not going to be private enough.
Not going to be private enough.
That's
Okay,
why we did
what we're going to do is just put into the minutes a comment to study the railing at the master bedroom balcony. And
I understand.
We won't. We have problems with it, but we're not here to design it. It's, you know, Don is going to design it. And
Can I ask the applicant a question? Do you want us to put something in the motion that we understand the need to raise the parapet an additional 18 inches if the design needs that, just for the stone area, and request a
Just
second
in case
mod?
I wanted to go for the second mod? Yeah, I mean, that would be great, because if I do decide to bring that around and raise it, then I won't have to come back before my mod hearing. I'm already scheduled for a mod hearing.
no, you won't have
So-
to come back. Oh, you mean if you were going to do? Yeah.
Yeah, if
see.
I was going to do that. But I don't know if I could slip in my extra mod fee and then slip in my letter. I don't know. I think if the noticing
too
hasn't gone out, I don't know.
But Paul, you're suggesting that we should go ahead and send to the modification hearing officer the fact that we would find that acceptable?
We find it acceptable on an aesthetic reason.
Yeah, for an aesthetic reason.
No negative aesthetic impact.
It isn't adding area, right? It wouldn't be adding area.
No deck area either.
Yeah.
I don't know, Paul. I don't know what I want to do yet. So,
Just give me as many
right.
options as
Yeah.
possible.
right.
Okay, what other comments do we have? I had the comment about raising the exterior stair balcony railing higher than the top of the required adjacent glass railing.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
A question and probably a follow-up. These trellises, what is the material of these?
Redwood.
Redwood. Okay. I guess the comment I would have is the house has got a nice contemporary nature started, and I think that the trellises are more in a different language. They feel like they're more traditional Spanish or just an older feel with these 45s.
With the brackets, yeah.
So there may be a more contemporary solution that I would appreciate, but it's just a comment.
Okay.
That's a good comment.
And just another overall comment that I'm fine with the bulk mass scale and style of the existing or the proposal.
And what about the exterior stairs? Are you fine with that?
In general, yes.
I don't have a problem with it either. People are going to come from the deck down to the swimming pool and from the swimming pool up to the deck, and it's set back a long ways from the adjacent property, of more than 15 feet, and people go upstairs and they don't stand on the stairs and wave at the neighbors. I think that the comment that I have about the architecture, I agree with you. I think it's coming along. I think that this side and this side, are much more successful than this east side is still seems. Where's the east side? Yeah, this still seems. It doesn't have the the composition doesn't seem to be as appropriate and orderly as the rest of the house, and it's because of those series of French doors that that are
Well,
all.
it's all existing. This is all existing except this.
Yeah.
So it's.
But these little things are, in a sense, are a departure from everything else, which your fenestration is really vertical. You have a vertical, with that exception, it really is vertical fenestration, and that's why I asked you first of all about how those were going to be broken up, or if they were going to be operable, because that might be the solution if they had mullions and they took on a more. But this is so vertical, and personally, I think it's very classy. It has a real this has a little bit of a problem, but it's just happens once, and the rest of this stuff is so powerful in terms of the composition that it's not so.
And it was for privacy because it's a bedroom.
Yeah.
So.
I understand. I understand for privacy. Well, maybe I'm the only one.
I had a few comments.
Okay.
While we're on that east elevation, this deck is less than our guidelines, about 10 feet from the property line. And I noticed you did this treatment on the other side. Why not on this side for more privacy?
I think I only didn't do it because it was exacerbating the height
mass.
of that wall, but I'm certainly open to that.
This isn't in the setback, is it?
No.
I think we talked about this last time. The screening of that deck, or I think that was talked about, either moving this thing in so that it meets our guideline, or getting more of a screen there.
I'm fine with doing the wall with the just this same treatment.
Yeah.
And I don't remember that comment, and it wasn't in the minutes, but I'm certainly open to that.
Where's the site plan? Site plan, please. Just to grade this so that you're less than 30 inches, so you don't need a guardrail there. You see you're at 3 feet right now.
Oh, yeah. Good idea.
And then you say you want vines here, but I don't see a vine pocket to plant it. So.
Right, because we haven't done a landscape plan yet, but thanks.
Anyway, going back to this issue of the screening, and maybe picking up on Bernie's concern about the extent of the second floor deck. Personally, I don't consider a 42-inch high railing to be a screen. That's not a screen. And this is not 15 feet from the property line. It ought to be screened. It ought to be up.
That's more than 15. That's at the garage.
You're talking about the other side, Bill?
Excuse me, this part here. That this ought to be, if this is going to be here, it ought to be a 6 foot. It ought to be closed in, or it ought to be moved back so that it meets our 15-foot guideline. It's not. It's not that this house is underdecked. This house has a lot of deck, and some of that could be given up if it isn't. If the owner doesn't want to screen it, then it ought to be moved in some way.
It's close to 13 feet here because the property line's at an angle.
Then you only have to go 2 more feet.
So if I pulled that back, and then if I pulled that entire covered deck from the lower level and deck from the upper level back to the 15.
If you want to keep your 42 inches there, and this became a planter,
right,
with some vines and growies there, that might be a nice touch to the house, and it would move the deck back so you'd be 15 feet.
I might just move the whole thing back instead of doing a planter.
You study it.
Okay.
So we'll say that the rear deck, Gloria, the rear deck on the
Northeast side?
On the northeast side, the railing will be moved back so that the deck itself is 15 feet from the property line, meets our 15-foot guideline. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I only had one other minor comment.
Okay.
I like how you said about carrying forward the idea about the the roof details as well as the parapet heights, because I think it's important to know what you're going to be doing for roof joists up there, and that'll affect your parapet heights. So we'll carry that forward, that comment forward. And this another minor technical thing is when you get to your fireplace, figure out how you're going to vent it and where you're going to vent it, because I've made mistakes in the past, and then I don't like where I end up having to put it. So.
Okay. One other minor detail. In wood, I don't think this is deep enough. That looks like about 8 inches to me, maybe 10 at the most. You know, usually the rule of thumb is you have 1 inch for every foot, and that's 16 or what?
16 feet.
Yeah, this is this. You know, you could probably get away with a 4x14 or something with a glue lamp, but
Actually,
this is not going to cut it, and it looks skimpy. It looks skimpy if it's out of wood, but it's contemporary, and it may mean that this is, you know, these things should be done in steel instead of in.
and they might be. And this was my revised version because I realized that the drafting.
Yeah, but
area
I
was
think
not
there's
having
been some
it.
criticism of these 45 punches.
And I wanted to, if you don't mind, I wanted to explain why I did that, because it's a couple, and one of them wanted a traditional Spanish, and the other one wanted a contemporary Spanish. So I've done this successfully. And actually it looks really good. It's kind of.
Why don't you bring us a picture of what you did that was
Yeah.
successful?
I'm calling it Ibiza Mediterranean. It's kind of a contemporary Mediterranean.
I see. Okay. Well, bring a picture of that to show us.
But I'll work on it.
Okay. Can somebody frame a motion then with the salient issues that we've talked about here, and sending recommendations to the staff hearing officer?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Do I need to go through the items one more time? Okay, one of them was to carry forward item 8 from the previous meeting about the parapet heights and the solar panels. And
the parapet detail, too.
And the parapet detail.
Yeah.
The comment was on the northeast elevation to study the windows and their proportions, and on the northeast elevation to provide privacy at the deck or relocate the deck so it satisfies our guidelines. A comment was made about provide information on the grading plan and if a guardrail is necessary.
Okay.
And to provide vine pockets at the paving plan.
Yes. And to restudy the master bedroom balcony
and that the
railing.
The board is okay with raising the parapet at the front garage, even though a modification would be necessary to satisfy an aesthetic concern if the applicant desires to go that route.
Right, and furthermore, that we have no problems with the modification, changing the windows and chimney in the existing setback. Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I could add one, or at least throw it out there.
Yes.
If the applicant could study the operation of the windows, because I'm not sure if they all can just be casement style or lift and turn, and
You have to have ventilation.
yeah, and they may be broken up in a little bit different way, but I think that would be valuable for the functioning of the spaces.
Under discussion, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I want to point out that the existing house, this is for Bernie and the bulk mass and scale. The existing house is a 2-story house with a pitched roof, and you drive by it and it's very opposing. Or not opposing, I mean, it's there, it's a house we live with. If they were to get rid of the 2nd-story roof and make it a flat roof, the house would look less big from the street. And so this is a significant improvement on the streetscape at the expense of the homeowner. So I can see this as an improvement of them getting rid of the pitched roof and going with a flat roof at this area. So I actually see this as a reduction of the bulk mass and scale from the existing structure.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
What is the size of the current house?
It's on the front page of the drawing.
The lot is currently developed with a 4,000 square foot structure. Wait a minute. I'm on a different page here now. It's a 2,700. It's about a 2,800 square foot two-story house now, and it's going to go up to 3,200. So it's about a 400 square foot increase.
We're adding the master bedroom
Yeah.
over the garage.
Yeah. But I think Paul's comment is a good one in terms of volume, probably reducing the volume even though you're increasing the floor area. Okay, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? So ordered. We'll move on. Thank you.
Thank you
Just to
for
clarify,
your
this is
comments.
definitely continuing back to full board.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to item number 2, which is 940 Coyote Road.
So is that. And I have to fill out a form.
This is a proposal to rebuild a single-family residence and garage destroyed in the T-fire. Proposed project data were verified to be a 3-story, 6,257 square foot house, attached 998 square foot garage, a detached 400 square foot garage. The project will increase the size of the previous residence by 1,189 square feet with the conversion of the understory to a basement. The project is located on a 1.3 acre lot in the Hillside Design District. The property provides a driveway easement for 950 Coyote Road. The proposed total of 7,655 square feet is 148% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. This is in progress with the revised house and garage square feet, and I think this is the fourth. Is this your fourth time here, Brian?
Fifth or sixth.
Seems like that. Okay. Anyway, why don't you read the minutes? Why don't you people first introduce yourselves to the board, and then we'll read the minutes.
Brian Nelson, project architect.
And I'm Bonnie Logan Zimmer, owner.
And I'm Jack Kiesel, landscape architect.
Okay, welcome. And now we'll read our minutes.
It was continued 2 weeks to full board. Applicant to submit revised plans to staff in advance of the meeting, otherwise to continue 4 weeks.
Mr. Chair, would you go back and read the previous minutes?
Will do. I was thinking about
Because
doing
that's
that.
why we're really here.
Okay, we gave the project preliminary approval, and this was on April 27th. And there are a number of comments. One is study moving the lower front deck wall back and adding a terrace using additional planters. 2, verify that a 700 square foot garage is allowable as existing structures total more than 750 feet. We do 2 twice. Carry forward the comments from the previous meeting, which are 7 and 8. 1 second. Study the gate to be located back from the street. And 8 was confirm that a gate is permitted in the public right-of-way. 3, confirm that the pool and improvements that are allowed in the front yard setback. 4, study reducing the void at the stairs from the west parking area to support an upper terrace deck. West parking area to the upper terrace deck. 5, study grading at the southwest corner, soften the building by filling against the building. 6, reduce the sun deck size. 7, provide a color and materials board. 8, study exterior lighting and the possibility of visible night glow. 9, considering night glow, study all window sizes, reduce where possible. 10, the height is appropriate to the overall scale, is not increasing. Project has been relocated and pushed back to reduce the impacts to Coyote Road and neighbor above. The previous deck had an understory, and new square footage will be located under the deck that had previously had lattice screen work. The quality of the architecture and materials are appropriate to Santa Barbara.
Okay. There it is.
It's to Jaime.
Mr. Chair, consistent with your direction, staff did go over the plan specifically to verify the square footage numbers based on the previous construction drawings.
Yeah.
And there was a long history associated with the site, and we did narrow down the fact that the square footage that he has shown on the plans is correct per the original drawings. There was a little bit conversion going from gross to net, and so we asked him to provide both sets of figures for your consideration. Bottom line, though, it really focuses on the basement level. There was square footages that, or area that was improved, but unfortunately we could not find any record of permits for that work. So that's really, I think, the central discussion that we had with trying to go over our permit records, to exactly what that basement level consisted of.
Well, the basement before was that was the thing that was just closed in with the lattice, right?
No, there was actually some workshop areas and some floors that were created underneath the home that we did not have permits for them. So again, the consistency of what their records showed was legal versus what's not being legal. And as I related to you last time, that really the question of basement square footage and whether there's an increase in the home is not really adding to the mass, bulk, and scale of this home.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunately adding to an increased FAR for this home, and which is causing some of the concern I think this board is having with the size of the home.
Okay, thank you.
In going over all the numbers with Jaime, we literally pulled out all the building permits, all the old drawings, spent 2 hours and 15 minutes going through and finding out what was actually permitted in square footage. That square footage gross, because didn't do net back in those days, didn't need to do net back in those days, was 5267. That's what the house was. That was the gross. We are at 5267. We took feet out of the house both directions in all the different areas. We've taken the square footage out. We are back to 5267 gross.
You are now?
We are now. We're exactly where the house was.
Okay.
The net was 5,060, and because we have some thicker walls and things, we're actually at 4,976. I have the numbers here in writing for you. The original garage was 669 square feet gross. Why don't I just give you a copy of these so you don't have to write them all down. Here's two, so that you can kind of follow along.
Okay.
The original garage was 669 square feet plus a staircase that went up to the guest wing. On this property, you're actually, in this zone, you're actually allowed 750 square feet. And for a home of this scale, I felt it appropriate to have a wide and long two-car garage and then a one-car garage. So we've actually added, I don't remember how many square feet, 59 square feet in the garage. The net, as you can see on that second line, the net for the garage was 336, and we're at 720. But again, it's underneath the house, and you hardly see it because it's on this east elevation. The building that's down in the gully, down off that we called a garage.
Yeah.
When we went back and looked, the last permit was converting it from a garage to a hay barn. And so that's what we are now. We've changed it. We've gotten rid of the two-car garage door. We've changed it back to a hay barn. They were actually using it for horses. And so it is actually a hay barn. It was 441, and we kept it at 441, 400 gross net. So if you look at the down lower on there, it says decks. The decks were 1,684 square feet, and we're down to 1,540. So we've taken square footage off of the decks that were permitted on the original set of permits. The significant one is the amount of glazing. You had asked us to study the night light coming out of this building. And it was 420 square feet on the south. This is only the south elevation. I forgot to write that on there. But this was the south elevation that broadcasts out toward the street and toward the city. It was 420, and it was clear glass. We're now down to 230, basically. That's a 54% reduction. Plus, we're using low E glass. The regular glazing, you lose 10% going through regular glazing. So it was, if you might want to say 90% of the 420 was the amount of light coming through. We're now down at 230, and using low E glass, it cuts it down by about 50%. So we're not just down in square footage of glass, but we're also way down in the broadcast light going out from the house to the neighborhood and to the city. So that's kind of a long litany just to tell you that we're exact same square footage as the original 5267. The net's virtually the same as the original. By the way, the little numbers underneath the floor, the main floor square footages, when you actually took the numbers off the plans, it was a little bit bigger than that. But we decided we weren't going to fight that battle. We were going to go to the 5267, which was the original. So basically, the only thing that we are asking, as Jaime just talked about, is the basement. For the FARs, it is considered a basement. Jaime looked at the definitions and agreed that it is a basement. So we're adding 495 square feet for the FARs, for the basement, because it's at 50%.
Okay.
So there's the numbers for you.
Okay.
Let's get the technical stuff out of the way. This is a copy of the FAR calculations. Last time we came in, we were at 148%. Let's start with the old structures. If you took the old structure and the new structure without the basement, that's what it says across the top. So notice number 2 says, is there a basement?
Put that up here.
I'm sorry.
You don't have an extra one of those?
I can't read it upside down.
I'll just listen.
I don't know if you can zoom in on that or not.
The
Lori,
point
can you
is,
zoom in on this? Can you zoom in on that?
without the basement, if you include the garages, the original garages, all original square footages that are on this sheet, you come up with 6,096 square feet with no basement. That puts you at, if you look at the bottom, 119%.
Okay.
So that's what the original house was, 119%. That's what we are replacing. It's 119%. The numbers match straight across the board. If you go back to the totals, 6,096, we're at 6,096. So then if you go to this sheet, this is with the basement, because you had asked Bill for us to go with the basement at 50%, which is because it is a basement, so we're at 128%. So there's the numbers for you. Before we were at 148% with reduction of square footage and everything else we've done, and 50% for the basement, we're down at 128%.
Okay.
So there's the numbers. Actually, these are mine. I don't want to lose those. Okay. The next thing I did, I won't go through, I went through with Jaime and with Tony the diagram that we did to come up with the square footage. And I have that they have a copy of that in color, and we did the calculations the exact same way the original plans did the calculations. They counted half the stairs, blah, blah, blah. So the staff has already reviewed that, and they can verify that we did the square footage per square footage. So the next thing I'd like to show you before we open any plans is these photographs. The upper photograph was one of the few archives that they had left in their possession of what the house looked like from the street. So this one up here is what you could see at the corner. If you stood down on Coyote Road, you can see the front gates that are there and the driveway going up. I have redone the model, which I'll show you eventually, but I wanted to show you in perspective what it's going to look like. So the bottom picture is taken from roughly the same. You can see the street on the left and the driveway going up. You can't see the driveway going up because all the bushes were mature, and my model didn't go over far enough to get down on the ravine with the oleanders that go up the east side of the driveway. But again, you can see, you can just barely catch glimpses of the house as you're driving by. If you go to the next page, this is taken from the southwest corner. You can see the chain link fence in the front and the yuccas that were coming up the driveway. If you look right behind the yuccas, you can see the driveway. This was taken standing on Coyote Road. So I took the model and did basically the same thing. So I'm on Coyote Road, and there is, you can see the chimney for a chimney, a porch for a porch, a trellis for a trellis, and a roof line for a roof line. So these are taken as close as I could get to the exact same spot. This tree is actually the yucca, but I didn't have a model tree of a yucca. I didn't have anything that even looked like it, so I just put a tree there. So that represents the yucca. Okay. So that's what that is. I don't know that we need to go back. You've already seen these photographs. These the original house that was there. If we need them, I have them here.
Okay.
Okay. There's 2 copies there. The next thing is the color board.
Yeah.
Here's the original on the color board. I've changed this elevation to match what we are presenting for today. That's for your record. If you'd like copies of it, these are Xerox and the colors aren't accurate. Those are accurate. So, I wanted to start with that so that you kind of got it, so you know the numbers. We have literally taken feet out of the house all the way through this way and feet all the way through this way, made rooms smaller, spaces smaller, decks smaller. So I'd like to walk through that with you. And then I'd like to come back to the minutes. There's 3 sets here. I'd like to come back to the minutes and address each issue as we go. So if you go to sheet A1, it's the site plan, and you had asked at preliminary approval to restudy and decrease this deck. When I came in last time, we had decreased the deck. It came across and came back in over here, and we had decreased the deck by 1.5 feet, and we have now decreased it by leaving that where we had it at 17.5 feet, but we've taken out this whole section of deck so that downstairs by the pool, this is the main level. Don't be confused. This is the main level, not the basement level that opens onto the pool. So we have a lot more deck area and a lot less deck forward. So we've taken out that many square feet of deck on this level alone. Okay?
Yeah.
We've added a planter coming down here because of the fire regulations, 12 inches for the first 15 feet. 12 inches of landscaping is all you can have next to the building. So what we did is we did a terraced step coming down. This is steps on grade coming down the hill. So we have that, and we now have vines coming over the top of that to give landscaping near the building. Each of these represent a pot down below that you'll see, and we also have planters down below. Each of those are pots. You'll see that in the renderings and in the landscape plan and in the model. To get landscaping adjacent to the house without having bushes up against the house. All right? Again, I just want to remind you that we took square footages out both directions and shrank the whole building. If we need to study it, there is the silhouette of the permitted set of drawings. The dark dashed line is the deck elevation and the roof elevation. You can see that our deck is, that's the railing. Our railing is down because we've moved the floor down on the basement instead of pushing the building up. From way back in the beginning, we pulled it all down. So this is the silhouette of the original building, and then you can see where we are within that envelope, all the way around, so that it's on record. Everybody knows where it is, where it was. We've taken a lot of space out of that, so you can see through. This wing has 8-foot plates, so it's a lot lower than the original building that was there. And there's the footprints. These were the decks, the dark lines of the decks that were permitted in the past. And all that deck all the way around, and we're asking for a little deck there and a walkout deck here that doesn't go to the ground. On this floor, bulk mass and scale, you can see the old floor plan came clear out to here, and we've taken all that square footage out of that building, the back of that wing.
Okay.
So at the basement level, we had the building out to this line. It was actually out to that line, and we had the media room out there, and we had the bedroom out there, and we went back and reviewed and listened to what you said, and it was suggested that we have an arcade and that you don't see the building on the bottom floor. So we've come back 10, 11 feet from that outside edge to the building line here. It's a little closer there, but then we've come clear back in here. This gives us a sun deck as well as a shade deck, a shaded area. I'd like to show you what that's going to look like with groin vaults in there. So that's that area across here. It's a little bit bigger than what this is. This was a Design Arc project that I found, and so that gives you the idea of what this arcade is going to look like coming across here. So the deck's up above there, but we gained all of that sun deck down below, and we pulled that mass that was forward back to here. These are pots with plants in them in front of everyone, matching across there, matching the pattern, and then across here.
Okay.
Do the same thing over here, so that flagstone goes all the way through. So this is the deck that used to come over and connect here. That's all gone now. We pulled that back, added this terrace landscaping going down. I think that's about all. Oh, this deck we had as a small cantilever deck with another cantilever deck above it, actually with posts coming down to this level. This is the family room, and it's a great view all the way to Oxnard that way. And there was really only this little deck to get out on and no place to get in the sun. So we are asking that we have this deck out here that has the arcade underneath it, as opposed to just the cantilever deck that was there.
Okay.
Okay? And yet we're still under the square footage of the original decks. If you go back, you'll see that this had a deck that was this big, came here, went out there, came all the way around the building, came back to here. I mean, it was
The original.
The original.
Yeah.
If you go back to that original plan, you'll see that we significantly reduced the decks around there. Third floor, again, we've just taken square footage out, taken a lot of square footage out of this back here. We took some square footage out of this, both directions. We've consolidated fireplaces. We had, I think, 6 chimneys on here before, and we're down to 3 chimneys on here now because we've consolidated fireplaces. That was one of the comments before, is it has a lot of chimneys.
Saving money.
Saving money too. So we have 3 on this and 1 over there.
Okay.
So this is where I'd like to bring the model forward, because elevations, it's 3 stories. You know, the first thing everybody says, it's 3 stories. So I'd like to bring the model up. And again, I would like for you to start by looking at it from the street level. I think that's really important, and if you go back to those photographs that I first showed you, you know, the building can't be seen on the bottom floor, and because we took the deck away, we pulled that back. So now I'll let you look at it from the bird's eye view. And I think you'll see what we have done by adding, stand up, by adding the pots. We can at least get, instead of having foliage at the ground that's only 12 inches high, if you put it in pots and then put the plants in pots, they now read. You know, you don't just have landscape on the ground, but it's actually up in the air and it appears to be 3 feet high. Right. So that's why the pots everywhere. We've added a fountain and some other details like that. And we've added a spa, but you can't see that from any place but in the house. So this is in proportion. I have redone the driveway so that you can see where it is in relationship to the pool. The original topo we had, the driveway was in a little bit different location, so that's been redone. So everything is in proportion here as per the site plan. Okay?
This functions as the front door here?
That is the front door.
So the guests come up, drive up this way,
That's
and
correct.
You've got guest parking up here.
Right, and they turn around and drive down. This used to be, there wasn't a turnaround, and when you got here, you literally had to back all the way to there to get out. And the guests would come, and this was the front door over here, and you had to come up by the garage and come in the back way. So this is the front door. Now, that's where the deck used to wrap around. There was a big deck that wrapped around that corner. And there was a door in, but it was a back door into the, as opposed to the front door. So, I redid the model. One of the things that I want you to go back and look at, well, let's look at the elevations as we look at the model. If you recall, we had a pair of French doors and a pair of windows, a pair of French doors and a pair of windows, 3 French doors across here. On this plan, we had a pair of French doors, a pair of windows, a pair of French doors, and a pair of windows. You can see what we've taken out. One of your comments, Bill, was you need more plaster and less glass.
Yes.
We've done a lot of that. We've taken it all out. These windows that appear like they're sitting out on the front edge are back to 10 feet. Those are 11 feet back.
Back
Those
in
are
behind the arcade.
way back behind the arcade. That's what the model hopefully really shows you there. Okay? So on this wing, we had a pair of windows and a French door and a pair of windows and a French door, and we've taken away the windows, so you have a lot more plaster surface here. If you, the last sheet in this whole thing is a rendering. I think you can see it though. Obviously, all of this is shaded down here because it's back so far.
Well, you can see that in the model.
You can see it in the model. So I won't plot the rendering. Well, I will in a minute. But so this whole area down here is back. This what represents where the lattice used to be out at the front, but now it's a hole that's totally shadowed, as opposed to having a painted surface, which is what the lattice was out at the front in the original house that was there. So then, like I say, we consolidated the chimneys into pairs and things like that to take the number of chimneys off. We also have stopped stacking so many doors and windows. One of the concerns was the hotel. That comment came up quite a few times. That's why things are not stacked anymore. This does and that does, but so some of them make sense to stack them, but some of them don't. And we don't have the same size window above the same size window anymore. We've buried that.
What's that little thing right there?
That's an awning over that door because it's facing south.
Yeah.
And so, we have this to help shade, but that's an awning.
How deep is that balcony?
That one's 4 feet deep. And then this is the one that comes out. This is where we used to have the double balcony. We had the same wood balcony with the posts running up.
Yeah.
And then we want to add this with the shaded area back there, and protected area next to the garage, and get this out in front. So that's on the model over there. You can see that. All right. On the north side, we started there last time. We have reduced from the preliminary approval. We have reduced the number of window sizes back here also. This was a big wall of glass, and we've taken it down to those windows, this one being at the platform, this being at the upper level. So I don't need to go through that so much because it's not a light issue so much, I don't think, for you on that. All right?
Yep. Okay.
So, one of the things that I'd like to have you comment on is we would like to use this cut metal on top of the trellis. If you can't have vines and you can't have shade except for, because you can't have things growing on your buildings anymore, we would like to use that on top of the trellis that gives that shadow pattern, which I found really fun. Here's the materials it comes in. Comes in patina or this, and it gives shadow and shade. It feels like you're under a lattice full of vines. So
Very interesting.
the landscape architect found that one. It was a good find, I thought.
Interesting.
So I brought that along so you could really see it.
Okay.
Then I would like to go back through the minutes and address each of those issues to make sure we've covered everything that we could cover.
You want me to go through them?
The 11 points, back to the 11 from the preliminary approval, because we're still in progress on the preliminary approval.
Okay, it was a study moving the lower front deck wall back and adding a terrace and adding additional planters.
That's what we did with taking down the deck and putting the potted plants in front.
Right.
Verify a 700 square foot garage is allowable as existing structures total more than 750 square feet.
And that we went to staff and you're allowed 750 square feet, so that's what we are.
And you've got the hay barn.
But it's not a
Separate permit.
Yeah.
It's not a parking structure. So
Right, I agree.
it's a hay barn.
Yeah, it's not a part of, it's not another garage.
That's correct.
Carry forward the comments relating to the gate.
I think we settled that
We
was...
did. In the last meeting I brought in that they have an encroachment permit for the gate, the fences, everything that they need, and the grate that the fire department needed, and we have photos of that. So the fire department's taken care of, and and Jaime and Tony have all the documentation for that. Fire department issues are taken care of. The encroachment permit's taken care of.
Were there approved drawings on the design of the gate? So we'll want to have the design of the gate. Eventually we'll want to approve the design of the gate, or maybe you have designed it already. And
The gate as well as the pilasters, the pillars.
yeah,
We would like to keep the gate
Talking about
because
the gate.
it's a sliding gate. You can't do this because of the driveway
okay.
going up. So that's the pilaster that is existing. That's the size of it. It has the glass block here. We'd like to plaster it,
Yeah.
put tile, recessed flush tile there, put the lantern that matches the house on top,
Okay.
and that would be the pilaster on each side. There's the
Okay.
And the
So-
gate is a nice wrought iron gate. It's
So,
missing
so
a
we're
couple
going
of
to
pickets on top.
go from the brick to stucco.
Yes.
With a recessed tile, little Mexican tile numbers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I need to go back just so I understand the previous hay barn. Is that shown on the model?
No, it's down in the ravine. It's off that model.
Okay, that's what I was
No,
trying to figure out.
it's the two-car garage on that
Okay.
lower driveway.
Thank you.
Did that burn also?
Yeah. There's nothing left.
Okay, the gate.
Next
So
item was confirmed that the pool and improvements are allowed in the front yard setback.
I think we settled that.
just to remind you, the front yard setback for a pool is 15 feet.
Yeah.
We have to be 35 for this, so we're well within that, or well out of that. Or however you
Reduce
say
the
it.
void. I
At
think
the
that-
stairs from the west parking area
That
to
was
the upper
this.
terrace.
And we added the vine pockets coming down so that you get some landscaping that appears to be up against the building, but it's not under the building.
Study the grading at the southwest corner, soften the building by adding fill against it.
That was this
That
corner
was this
again.
corner.
Yep.
Reduce the size of the sun deck.
We've gone through that, then
Okay.
there, we pulled it back.
Yep.
Provide color board materials.
Yep.
You got that?
Study exterior lighting and the possibility of visible night glow.
I think that's been addressed.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have the
At least
cut
the
sheets
applicants requested.
from Handelman that has the shielded, or that has the opalescent glass in it, and it meets the night sky. And we've shown all the light fixtures on the drawings, on the elevation, so you can see where they are.
This low E glazing that you mentioned, that reduces light both ways.
Yes,
It works both ways.
50% coming out. It's remarkable. I mean, if you think about, fluorescent lights in a kitchen coming out,
Yeah.
and a 50% reduction, wow.
I got it.
Clear glass is 10% reduction.
I got it. Okay.
So it's considered night glow. Study all window sizes, reduce where possible. We
Yeah.
talked about that. The height is appropriate. We talked about that.
Yep.
And then correct the FAR calculations.
Yep. I think we've covered everything. Very good presentation. Thank you. Okay, we're going to open up public.
Do you want to speak, Bonnie?
I can.
The owner would like to speak.
Okay. As a part of the presentation, a brief
Yes.
comment. Yes, go ahead.
My name is Bonnie Logan Zimmer, and I purchased the property at 940 Coyote Road 23 years ago. Our neighborhood...
No.
I can't turn around? Okay, I'm sorry.
You're addressing the board.
Oh, okay. I'm
If you want to address the public like that, you've got to run for public office.
I don't think I'll do that. Our neighborhood is Montecito. Not just the Mountain Drive Association's historic homes that are up in the hills well above us. Westmont and all the neighbors all the homes in the areas from Sycamore Canyon to Mountain Drive, those are our neighbors. Many homes are larger than ours, and many are smaller. We all live side by side, happily. We've done 2 major remodels, one 20 years ago and another one 10 years ago. We passed your design board. I paid for the permits and the ensuing taxes and all the insurance premiums for all of these years. After the fire, we're supposed to be able to build back what we had. The footprint, the height, and everything in between. the bulk mass scale, as you call it. We asked our architect, what would the city like to see in the way of a design? And he suggested Spanish. We said, okay, the design has to fit the footprint. My request to the architect was please make it handicap friendly. After having my 90-year-old mom and caregivers with us for almost 4 years, we learned that is a must. Plus, we're not getting any younger either. I also asked him to please build green. Use as much energy saving as possible. We've also moved the house forward, turned it more to the west to give our neighbor, Seth, more view. We've changed our floor plans to suit this new design. Absolutely no change in our footprint or our height. Some of the basement area has changed its classification. This you called additional living space. No change again in the footprint or the height. We further reduced, as Brian has said, the deck sizes we had to fit into what we think you want. We've also reduced the windows and the doors. We had, because you don't really want to see the light. Just remember, we had substantially more glazing before. We're trying to make concessions, even though we're entitled to keep it the same. Some of you wanted more plants and green. So would we. But the fire department won't allow it. So it's been a big challenge to put plants where we can. We started with our permit process here, January 2nd. And now it's August 17th. We may not be able to please everyone all of the time, us included, but we have diligently worked to make your suggested changes. Remember, we're the victims here. We lost everything. And we really need to get on with our lives. We're not going to have a place to live in 2 years. I mean, our time is up. So please give us your final approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice statement. Okay.
The one sheets I didn't go through are the detail sheets that are D1, 2, 3 at the back with doors, windows, chimneys,
Okay.
all those. Forgot to mention that.
We'll,
Sorry.
we'll get to those. And I want to move, we're running behind schedule, so I want to get into public comment because we've got a lot of yellow slips here. Tony, do you have anything?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Okay, that's noted.
And we also have some photographs from Seth Olitsky. Okay.
Okay. Then I'm going to open up public part of this hearing, and I have 5 slips. I'd like you to be fairly brief. This has been here many times. Many of you have spoken before. I don't think you have to repeat yourselves to the board, and you certainly don't have to repeat the person that has come before you. So try to let's try to move it along. Seth, you're first, and you'll be followed by Henry Childs.
Okay. I will try and be brief, but I feel that because of the situation, I need to be able to express how I feel about this. My name is Seth Olitsky, and I live at 950 Coyote Road, directly behind the 940 proposed rebuild. As you know, Mr. Nelson has showed the model saying that you won't be able to see the house from the street. Well, I drive up the street every day, and I approach this property, and you're going to be able to see it, and it's going to stand out like the large structure is. And I do have some photographs to share. The first one is my front yard. That hill in the back doesn't exist anywhere, okay? And I'm going to see that house sitting in my front yard. There is no vegetation behind that house except my banana trees, which I'm hoping will grow to 20 feet, okay? When you drive up, these are the photographs going up Coyote Road, the way it looks now, okay? So I have photographs here which show what the views look like when you drive up Coyote Road. Coyote Road turns west right before you reach the 940 property, and this causes the driver's attention to be focused straight at the house. The road is somewhat slanted at this juncture, which emphasizes how high the hillside property is. You can actually see my son's swing set in some of these pictures. As for the pine tree in the front yard, it's dead and brown and will eventually have to be removed. If the architect's approach is to shroud this house in shrubs and trees to obscure it, then all that will happen is this will make a fire danger. There won't be the necessary 100-foot clearance around the house required by the fire department. Okay, that's my first part. Now for the second part. While I am aware that the Single-Family Design Board does not get involved in easement issues, I need you to be aware of the Logan Zimmer's attempts to prevent my family access to my house through the existing driveway. Regardless of what Mrs. Logan Zimmer says, they are fighting me, tooth and nail, with lawyers. I have a deeded easement that currently runs directly next to the attached garages on their proposed house, and the Logan Zimmers would cross over this deeded easement to gain access to their garages. The Logan Zimmers have proposed that I be deeded their lower asphalt driveway instead and build a new driveway to the house. This new driveway will be an enormous personal expense to my family. Yet the Logan Zimmers are asking the Single-Family Design Board to allow them to build another structure, garage, hayborn, on that easement that they wish to deed to me. They should not be allowed to build the structure until the driveway easement is settled, as there are issues with grading and the fire department. Okay. As for that sliding gate out front, if I take the lower easement, that sliding gate becomes a fire hazard and danger to my property, as when it opens, it will block my driveway completely. Finally, my attorney has advised me to state to you that allowing the Logan Zimmers to build another garage or structure on this lower driveway will prevent me from having safe and secure access to my house through this easement. This will be unacceptable, and if this is allowed, appropriate action will be taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Henry, you're next, followed by Ken Radsky.
Board members, Henry Childs from Community Association, thank you once again for allowing us to speak. I guess what I would really like to try to get a little bit clear for us, and it's the same dilemma that you folks have in making your decisions, is the relationship between fire rebuild and neighborhood compatibility, size, bulk, and scale, your guidelines in general. We went through a similar process with similar design issues on the property immediately across the street recently, and that was settled more easily because they were willing to take the previous 3-story design and bring it down to something like 2 stories and resolve other issues that were going on, some of which are present in these plans, which is specifically is the strong massing at the ends of the building. The problem that we've all been confronted with this project is that the structure is bloated. There's not really, if we stay with the square footage, there's not really a lot of room to do remassing on the building. So the overall profile, although I commend the architect, has worked very hard to accommodate what he can within some, we think, fairly smaller parameters than might otherwise be required for this design, but you certainly have worked hard at that. But the massing remains approximately the same. It's very high at the ends, and I had a whole list of all the sites in the citations in your guidelines as to, good examples, bad examples, the same stuff we went through on the project across the road. I won't bore you with it, but we know that massing at the ends is undesirable. 3-story reed is undesirable. Going to maximum heights is supposed to be avoided. Keep it to human scale, et cetera, et cetera. And all of those issues, we feel, are still present in this design. So it's not clear to us, with this project or even with future projects, how we're supposed to develop design flexibility when confronted with this, okay, we're going to rebuild what was there kind of attitude. So, and I understand the applicant's point of view on this. Obviously, we all want to maximize our spaces and get the details that we want. But if this board's job is to look at good architecture, there are still problems with this project, and we would really strongly urge you to try to revisit them. And one of the tools that I would like to see you at least answer a question for me. Let me rephrase that. I have a question, I guess it's for Tony, about how the basement calculation is arrived at. And in the original structure, when we're comparing, okay, here's the square footage for the original, here's the square footage for the new one, is the basement part of that calculation in the original structure?
As I mentioned to the board, we have the archive plans here. We did go through the history of the project. The original project had an understory. It did not have a floor area delineated as legal square footage. So that's what I've made very clear, that in fact this is an expansion of that basement level. As far as the calculation, if in fact the area was not considered floor area, it was not part of the calculation.
So let me be clear about this. The original house basement floor area is not a number that we're using now comparing to the new proposal without the basement either. We're talking about upper stories only in both cases.
They are proposing square footage now in the basement.
I understand that.
Based on the calculation method, it's actually a partial basement. They are allowed a 50% reduction in that floor area in the way we calculate square footage.
Was the basement square footage in the original house included in the numbers that we're looking at to compare today? That is the question.
No.
I don't understand.
No.
Okay. So it is a case essentially of apples and apples. We're looking at upper story square footage
They have
and upper
basically
story square footage.
made some reductions in their proposal now to keep that square footage. Matter of fact, I recommended that they try to make the square footage match identical. And so that was their goal, to not provide any increases in the
So if
overall
we
square footage.
discount the current proposal basement square footage, then it is a like-for-like comparison because we never did include the square footage in the basement in the original, correct?
That's correct. They've actually done some actual other reductions in square footage to get that
Yeah,
down
I
to
understand that.
Okay.
All right, thank you for
Thank you.
answering that.
Okay.
Clearly, the understory areas are a place where a lot of this massing could go.
We understand
So
that, yeah.
that's the issue that we have. And thank you for your time,
Thank
as
you.
usual.
Ken, you're next. You'll be followed by Jeff Shelton.
Ken Radke from 880 Coyote Road, just down the hill. I want to thank the architect and the owners for working this down to the original square footage.
Say,
and-
turn around, Ken, and address the board, not the architect. He can hear you.
And I appreciate that, and that I think that as a neighbor makes everyone feel better. And I know that the others, although there are disagreements about things, that changing is, I think, to be recognized. I think most are still finding it difficult to not see this as a three-story building. The way that it's massed and the way that it's presented. If it's a like for like in your opinion, that's the call for you to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, Jeff, you're next. Last speaker will be Claire.
I'm Jeff Shelton at 801 Cold Spring Road, and I'm with the MDCA. Just want to make it clear that we want to get these people back in their building, but we do believe Westmont isn't a building to the type of projects that we want to compare our neighborhood to. From Banana Road all the way up Coyote in our district does have a distinct look. First of all, the presentation was a lot clearer. It's much easier to see what's going on now, so we appreciate that. The fenestration was, to me, a lot better and going to be more appropriate, and overhangs at the loggia and all the shadow lines. So I think they did answer a lot of the issues that you asked them. That was fantastic. It doesn't look like the project is going anywhere past this, though, in some major changes. I just don't see that happening. We wish it would, but we really want to, impress upon you that this really does not fit in with most of everything that was there before. And so in future projects, it would be great to jump on it and get more in what we call the vernacular up there. So the big box here, which is about the size, the height is about the size of the project I just finished on Chapala. We just don't think it's quite appropriate for Coyote Road. And so many future projects coming in. I've got a number that are in the city here that I've been keeping them within 10% of the footprint, in the footprint, within the same size, bulk, and scale of the old project. I've been telling my clients that, and they're wondering why this project is coming in so big. So I'd like to really put a handle on this one for the next project, and look forward to seeing. This is going to be for preliminary approval. Is this what we're going
It's
at?
already gotten preliminary approval.
This is
This is
final.
in progress.
In progress. All right. Well, thanks.
Thank you. Claire? Claire will be the last speaker.
I'm actually not going to address the building at all. I'm really interested in a couple of statements and some clarification on the statements that were made by the architect that about the height of the vegetation and the spacing of the vegetation. I mean, we, the Mountain Drive Association, met with Ann Marks, who's the fire person, and it's very clear to me that, in fact, we didn't look at a landscape plan, but you can plant trees around a building. The only recommendation that the fire department makes is that the trees be 15 feet apart. You know, the fire department recommends its focus should be on ground covers not more than 12 inches in height. There's no absolute restriction, you know, and so I think inside this if this is the building that's going to get approved, you know, that front face, that south face, is going to need some trees and some things, and it is doable. Unlike with what was stated was that they can't plant anything above 12 inches in height.
Okay.
That actually is not accurate, and I think
Thank you. Thank you.
Eric might know that.
We'll look at that.
Yeah,
We'll
so
look
I
at that.
think, you know, that I just wanted to
Thank you.
say that.
Anybody else like to address the board? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Jaime, I think it would be appropriate for staff to clarify for the board the difference between a new project and how it relates to the single-family design guidelines and a rebuild.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And there are certain rights associated with a rebuild.
That's correct. As I relate to you in April, when this project was here for preliminary, I advised you at the time that to have a fair process. And what I meant by fair process is that this applicant is entitled to rebuild the home at the same square footage and height. We have actually had numerous cases where a project was proposed to be reconstructed at a higher height than what's permitted in the Lower Riviera. Some of the homes are actually being built higher than 30 feet because they existed and were built under that. And some folks have some problems with that, but under the current non-conforming aspect of our ordinances, we are entitled, or the property owners are entitled to build back their same footprint and same height. Now, what's unusual about this is this applicant has proposed a site shift to the footprint to the benefit, I believe, of a neighbor, and that puts them in a different sort of category in the sense that there are some changes with respect to the footprint. But I think to overly penalize this applicant by saying because you shifted the footprint, you cannot build, would be unfair, and that's what I relate to you again in April. And so, unfortunately, on our reconstruction and rebuilds, we're going to have homes that may not be consistent with what the desires of the neighborhoods and for new construction appropriate.
And to answer Seth's concerns about this easement, it is not the prerogative of this board to get into the
That's correct.
Disagreements between neighbors on easements.
If there are private easements,
Those are
it's
legal.
typically a private matter.
Yeah.
However, this board does have some conclusion with respect to where the accessory building is located, and if they think it's inappropriately sited, you can weigh in on that. I don't believe you raised those issues last time for this size of structure.
Okay, thank you.
Can I mention one thing? Yes, in relation to what the speaker just said, the last one, there is indeed a landscape plan. I know that we're trying to rush you here because we're going over. I can present that plan to you, or I can address you just on a per question basis. How do you guys want
Oh,
to do
that's
that?
right. You didn't get to make a presentation.
No.
Have you looked at the landscape plan? Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
How about just 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Why don't we get his questions answered first from you, and maybe that will cover all of your comments.
Okay, good, yeah, because I don't want it to go too
Yeah.
long, obviously.
Yeah.
What do you have planted in these pots above on the higher terrace?
Those would be geraniums, which match the kind of Tuscan style.
Do those trail at all?
A little bit, yeah.
But not much. Just
Yeah, they'll drape down.
Yeah. And then what happened to the plantings up here? It seemed like you had a lot more screening up here.
Well, there's an existing hedge that runs along that whole length up there, and what that is now growing back. So that is already there, and that's going to act as a screen.
What type hedge?
So there's
That's
the Eugenia.
That's Indian hawthorn and Eugenia.
So it doesn't end here. You're saying it?
Yeah, it just continues on there throughout there. There's actually a hedge line there that you can't see. This is like a ground cover underneath that of the existing hedge, which is now growing back.
Okay.
What about this pine tree here?
That is pretty much dead now and is going to be replaced with some palm trees, palm cluster. And then as far as saying that how it works with Ann Marks is that the deal is you can't have the canopy any closer than 15 feet to the structure. And then as far as trees, they shouldn't be more than 1.5 times the canopy width close to each other. And what we've done is
the canopy.
there's a lot of existing trees actually already on this site, and if you just allow them to grow, which they're all coming back, that's going to be a pretty lush landscape just on its own without anything additionally added. But we have added some trees up on the northwest corner, and those are orchard trees. You can see we've also added a row of trees in front of the pool area, and those would be Italian cypress. They're more of a dwarf variety there, which again fits in with style.
But it's a screen.
That's
so
right
they're
there.
very close together.
Yeah, they're close together. And so there's also screen. We also have a little hedge of whatchamacallit there being the
Star jasmine.
Star jasmine. Thank you very much. Coming along in there, and then all the other landscaping is kind of low, or not mostly herbaceous, but a lot of flowering stuff. We have a hummingbird garden, all kinds of things. We also in the back there we have a vegetable herb garden that the owner is going to work on their own. So we're making this landscape as lush as we can, but yet still keep in with the requirements. And I talk to Ann all the time, and I've done a lot of these and know exactly what these requirements.
Did you discuss using bigger succulents such as aloes and
we do.
forbias and things like that?
Yes, we do. If you look on the list, we do have a number of those. We have Aloe striata in there. We also have some Agave attenuata.
I mean larger succulents like in these pots maybe or back here where you need screening. Where
I
you're
asked
close to the building, but you want something more higher.
Yeah, well, the pots are already doing that, as Brian had alluded to. The pots are already kind of bringing the plants up higher, and there's a lot of succulents existing already in that property that are going to be coming up too. And then, in addition to the stuff that we are proposing.
Okay.
I think
that covers it. We're to the board for comments.
I have one quick question, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Looking at the landscape plan, there's a set of stairs that happens here in front of the pool, comes down and comes back up. What is the purpose of that staircase?
This staircase brings you down to the pool level, and you into the pool here. Then this goes downhill, and there's a short retaining wall about 3.5 feet high here to stay on grade, as opposed to bringing a retaining wall out here where at the edge. So these are on grade coming down here, and then you walk back up on grade here.
Okay.
So this is where you enter the pool. It's a lap pool, so you only get in from one end and swim back and forth. This is the jacuzzi at that end. With the water fall into the pool.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Are we in questions?
We are in questions.
Do you think that you might consider a design around that was a little bit more nature friendly?
Around
The stairs and the pool, something that maybe conformed with the landscape. It's just an idea.
Okay.
Okay. Are we to comments now?
Okay, can
Glenn?
I ask one more thing?
No. Glenn? We're going to comment now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to compliment the architect as well. I think he's done a pretty thorough job of addressing our comments. Reducing the square footage is appreciated, and getting it back to the original square footage above the basement level was a huge move, so I really appreciate that. I think the moving back of the basement level and including a sort of an arcade area was a big help in reducing the frontage or the massing at the front of the building. One of the public speakers said something about good architecture, and I would not say this is not good architecture. I would just say it's a large house. You have to think about it as far as a neighborhood goes, but architecturally, this is a very good house. So I don't want to belittle that. It's a nice piece of architecture. Let me see. The only real comment I had was with these arches in stone. They are a little thin at the arch, and these over here read much better. So if you bring that curb up, I think there'll be much more consistency through.
That's a very good comment, and very easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And shorten that railing. Shorter railings feel more traditional.
Yep.
We didn't used to have such tall railings.
I know. I hate the 42.
People in the old days didn't fall off of railings, but now I guess they do.
They're taller today.
Thank you. That's a very good comment. Paul?
I'll start with the overall size of the house and the height of the house. And because I feel like this house is the same massing as the original house that was lost, I don't have a problem with it. I understand that it's a rebuild. So, and the location and the skewedness of it, I understand what we're accomplishing here. And so, a lot of the comments that have already been said. I commend the architect for making this smaller and finding all the different places. The one comment I did say earlier, like 3 meetings ago, was the overall height was based upon drawings and things that you provided, and I assume staff has reviewed them, because we said this was the overall height. From this point, we worked down. And so staff has gone through that, so that's what we blessed, the overall height. 2 comments that I'm thinking in my head that I'm not resolved with is when I look at the site plan, I'm thinking the staircase that happens in front of the lap pool I find problematic because it's so tight to the driveway, landscaping-wise, and it just seems pinched. And so I'm wondering if there was a way of, as soon as you elevate the pool line, then we have an exposed retaining wall, which we were not wanting, but then if we could put landscaping in that 4-foot area where you have the walkway. If we can go to the site plan real fast, I can illustrate.
I think it's this one here that's upside down.
Okay. So in my mind, looking at the plan, I see the staircase, I see what you're doing here, and this is how you enter the pool. But if this was all landscaping, and this was all landscaping, and this was a 3-foot retaining wall going up to a 5-foot because it's supporting the pool, and there was landscaping all across here, I think that'll help mass the building, the bottom. It changes your site planning, which is why I asked that question. So I'm just...
How do you actually enter the pool coming this way down and eliminate that entire walkway?
Well, I'm thinking somehow because I'm seeing this is the problem, and then I was trying to solve it in my head. So that was the first issue.
I see your point.
Just to comment on that, you don't have to have paving all around the pool. You can keep this and lose all that.
Or just a little bit of it to get in the pool, and then maybe some stepping stones. And
this could be flagstone and have landscaping in between, but there's something.
Let's just make the comment that the walkway below the pool should be restudied, and it's to provide more landscaping.
Good comment.
Okay.
And then the last part that I was going to say was the trellis over this deck. I believe this was new. This wasn't in the previous proposal, and I'm going back and forth because the old house didn't have it, but I think it helps the architecture in creating another, I hate to call it a forward mass, but it breaks down the mass because otherwise we're just looking at a very sheer front edge.
There was a trellis all the way across this deck originally. You can see in the photos.
Okay. So then this is coming out in front of it.
Okay.
So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Bernie, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did not include the hay barn or the accessory building in our other, I'm not clear if we've already talked about that or if we're separating the two right now or what.
Drawings are in here for the barn, and they were in here during preliminary approval, but it was called a garage.
It's this thing right
It's that.
here.
Right.
Okay, because now given the issue that was raised on even, I don't know what it is and I don't know how it fits into the street and the driveway, and so I'm just having a hard time seeing that.
This is the street down here, and the potential that the neighbor spoke about was instead of him coming up this driveway and coming to his house, they have proposed that he might come up this way and come up this way to his house. So this is way back from the street. I don't know how far back. Way back from the street. And that's where it is, and that's where it was. So, does that answer your question? In other words, from the street, it's 150 feet.
You're building it back in the same location?
Same location.
Same
size.
Same size, but as a hay barn rather than as a garage.
Right, because the last permitted use was hay barn. It was converted from a garage to a hay barn.
Just one other question. And then, so the driveway has, you can drive up here and you can have room to turn the car around there?
Right here, you'll see the turnaround right there. They used to have to back down, but now this will turn around and go back down.
All right, that's it. Yeah, that's all.
Do you have any comments?
Well, Mr. Chair, thank you. I think one of the problems with the FAR in the basement is something that we're going to be looking at when we review this, but I think right now the uncovered open spaces are going to appear big. It's just going to appear big, but I think that it falls within our guidelines the way they are right now until they get adjusted. So, but that picture that we have of this is not even counted in the FAR, and it's almost like a covered room, but that's what our guidelines are allowing. Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, it's huge, and it's going to look huge, but that's what we need to change.
Right. Okay. I have a question. Why do we need this here? What's the purpose of it? I can see that the owner comes in and he goes to his garage. Guests come in and they go up here and park and go in the front door. What's that for?
That's already there. It's been there.
Yeah, I know, but this is a clean slate sort of. Why do we need to have it? We want to have as much landscaping and reduce paving.
Never been asked that question, so
I know,
I don't know the answer.
It just came to me.
It used to be part of the turnaround to for cars coming back down here.
Yeah,
and
they
turning
had
around and went out.
they needed it before because they couldn't do it up here. So,
Bill, if I can make a comment, please.
That's the owner?
are you the owner?
Yes.
And if I may.
Okay, come on up here.
We need you on a microphone, that's all.
Right here. This is Mr. Zimmer.
Yes, Bob Zimmer.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, board members. That section of driveway there, Bonnie and I, we use that because sometimes we're in the parking area where our guests are, and then sometimes I have to get back to the garage. And that is the little way that we go up and down, back and forth. Either she's doing it or I'm doing it. So it's a matter of wanting to have that excess driveway there so we can use it. And thank you.
Okay. Following up that question with a comment, I think that it would be. This is all existing. This
Yes.
is all, and what it's permeable now.
Yeah,
bricks
it's
and
pavers.
sand or something.
Yeah, pavers. Concrete pavers.
And these are existing curbs.
Yes.
And they're all there. Are they stone?
They're all there. They're all the pavers and the paving trim curb.
Okay. I think I think you've done a really good job to cut this down, Brian. I'm pleased with how hard you worked and how flexible you and the owners have been to try to address the concerns of the board. The reduction in the chimneys is wonderful. The reduction in the number of windows is so good because it makes it a much better piece of architecture in terms of Mediterranean. The way that you've staggered things, I think, is very clever and well thought out. I definitely agree that that will really help to get that
I agree.
up. This is only a suggestion, but I would ask you to study taking out this part of this balcony and just having a small balcony off of those doors, so you get the, it gives it a little more funkiness, or a little more, I don't know what the word is. You know, Spanish architecture is very idiosyncratic. And another suggestion is that you might double up the stringers under the posts. That's a very nice Spanish detail, where the post load comes down, you've got a double outrigger. But that's just a suggestion. Anyway, I think that I'm prepared to entertain a motion to move this along. I know that some landscaping comments have to come first, but
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief.
yes, please.
One thing I like the pots. I think that's a good idea as far as breaking up the mass. I would like some assurance that they're going to be a permanent feature. So I'd like to see irrigation to them. Also, maybe a way of they could be integrated into the paving, so we know that they're going to stay there and they're not just going to be picked up and thrown out once a new owner comes in.
Specify really expensive pots.
And I think large succulents will be your friend if you gain some landscaping along the pool there, where Paul was talking about gaining some landscaping in here. Maybe something like an aloe banzii or euphorbia or something like that. And the last comment, I'm a little unsure of how the Italian cypress hedge is going to look. I've seen that done with normal Italian cypress, and it looks really bad. Maybe it's you space them farther apart, but or bring a photo of.
Those are the dwarf ones.
Yeah, I know, but they still get fairly tall, and it's just going to be a wall of green.
You
there.
study that, and that'll be settled.
Or bring a photo of an example of what you're thinking there.
Yes.
Two other items I'd like to go over. One's minor. One has to do with this double chimney. And this one is less successful than this one. So I just wanted to point that out as something to study, and if anyone else picked that up, because it's not shown in all the drawings. One of them showed this as a one chimney versus a double. So I wanted to mention that. And then the second item has to do with the easement. I understand. I'm just pointing out the single chimney right here. The easement for the neighbor behind. And somehow I understand that it's a private matter, but I'm wondering if it needs to get resolved prior to them pulling a building permit and starting this construction, because if a change has to happen, or because we lock into stuff.
No, we're not going to. I'm not going to accept any more comments, and we're not going to get into the issue of the easement. If the people can't come to an agreement, the judge will put an injunction against starting construction. We're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that easement thing. I'm going to entertain a motion. We're very much behind schedule. I'm going to entertain a motion to move this on to the consent calendar for finals. Is there such a motion? With the comments that have been made?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? No second?
I'll second.
What? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move this on to finals. Do we have the comments? Do you have all the comments, Gloria, that you feel we've made regarding the chimneys, the balcony, the landscaping of the walkway below the pool? What are some of the other things, Paul? You usually,
one balcony off the study.
One balcony off the study, and what else was there?
Below the pool, and then there was another comment.
There was a second floor room. What's this room?
The guest wing, second floor balcony.
Maybe smaller.
To be made smaller.
Study that.
And the arches.
Increase the stone arches.
Double at the post.
Yeah, double the outriggers
Under
at the balcony posts. Okay.
Have we already approved the color board?
I mean, Color Board can go to the consent calendar for finals, but I think we accepted it being acceptable colors, yes. All in favor of the motion, say aye. 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 Opposed?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. We appreciate your comments, and we hope that you can get going with the construction of your house as soon as possible. We want you back in there. Okay, sorry for the delay, but sometimes things take longer, and that's the way the review goes.
I think there's an extra landscape.
Now we'll move on to item number 3, which is at 2430 Pine Drive. This is a proposal to construct an additional dwelling unit. The proposed is a 2-story, 950-square-foot single-family residence with an attached 700-square-foot garage and new driveway and 230 cubic yards of grading. The lot is currently developed with a 4,000-square-foot structure consisting of a 3-story, 2,900-square-foot residence with an attached 780-square-foot 3-car garage and a detached 320-square-foot accessory building. Staff hearing officer approval of a performance standard permit for the accessory dwelling unit is requested. The proposed total of 5,600 square feet on a 56,000-square-foot lot is 110% FAR. This is the second concept review. Comments only. Project required environmental assessment and staff hearing officer approval of a performance standard permit. So, what were our minutes, Paul?
I have to get them back.
Well, I have them right here.
Okay.
And we had that one correction, remember?
There were 3 items. One is to restudy the architecture for location 5. Number 2 was to study digging down at the garage and study the site plan in relationship to digging down the garage. Number 3 is to show the pre-grade and finish grade on sections and elevations.
Okay. So if you'd give your name for the record.
Bruce Burnworth.
Welcome, Bruce.
Hello. So what I have here is a series of pictures. I took pictures of every house in the neighborhood.
Good.
So you can reference these. I have them separated into the 20 closest houses and then also the houses that are further away from the 20 closest.
Okay. Those are the ones down. Those are the apartments.
Vista Madera.
Yeah. This was...
That's 2 houses down.
2 houses down.
And this...
That's the one behind you, sort of.
No, this is the one... Yeah, this is the one next to me.
Yeah.
This is the one that's across the street and down a little bit.
And then this is more like on Pine. Those are the little ones up Pine.
Yeah, there's a big one at the top, and then there are a series of 3 little ones that go down the one side. They're cute.
They are cute.
They are
charming.
Further away from the where my house is. It's interesting.
They all have those kind of one, the garage under.
Yeah.
Because it's so steep going up.
That is a common thing that happens in neighborhoods with garages being underneath the houses.
That's the new development, Greenwell. That's the low income.
The corner, well, that's the corner of Pine and Modoc. So the low income one's actually back along the railroad tracks.
And where's that one?
That's the corner. That's the other side of the street from Pine and Modoc.
What's the little street that goes down to your house? Does that have a special name?
No, that's actually Pine. The public street goes up from Modoc, turns right, and my house is at the end of the public street. The other part of the street going up the hill from there is actually a private street.
Private drive.
Doesn't seem that way, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
I don't know how it got that way.
Yeah, I remember we had quite an argument at Planning Commission about that private street and who was going to maintain it, etc. Okay. Well, that's very good pictures. Thank you.
All right. And then what I have here, 3 sets of these things, is somebody's making noise.
Maybe that one right there.
No, these 2 are both off now.
No, it's starting. Who is it? Is it me?
They'll tell us.
The phone will tell.
Yeah.
Okay, you're good to go.
I just need to turn this back on. All right. Oh, that one's
Okay.
on. Okay, sorry. Maybe it's...
It does have to do with Mr. Nahan's mic.
It's this one here? Maybe I'm leaning on something. I always keep it on. I always keep it on. It's chair's prerogative.
So this just...
I think as I lean forward, this is what happens.
Oh,
Okay.
it gets too close, maybe. This looks at the closest houses, the ones that are most adjacent to the proposed site. And here we're looking at the one that backs up. This is actually the front of the house that backs up and is closest actually to the proposed location. This one is next door to the proposed location. You can't see the house from the street. And this is an existing house, and then these are the condominiums that are closest away. They are fairly far away. You think of a normal neighborhood where houses are maybe in this type of zoning, the setback's 6 feet. These houses are 60 to 160 feet away. So they're very spread out. There's lots of landscaping in the area. That's an important part of the surroundings. In looking at what I'm trying to do here, the visibility of this, you stand at the site and you try to look at other houses, and you can see a little bit of the houses on Vista Madera. You can't see any of the houses that are to the west. You can see across the freeway to some houses over on the other side. You can't see any houses across the street on Pine Drive. You can't even see Pine Drive. So this house is not visible from very many locations. You saw the style of the houses. I've identified like 6 or 7 different styles in the neighborhood. It's not a uniform neighborhood by any means. There's quite a variety of styles. And about half of them are 2-story and half of them are 1-story. What I'm trying to do, and maybe I can jump ahead a little bit, I looked at a couple of alternative styles. I looked at the Pueblo style, drew up some sketches of what that might look like. I also looked at more of a ranch style to see what that would look like. They both kind of work. And then what I did was I did a detailed analysis looking at and comparing those 3 styles. Let me just jump to this. So we have the ranch style, the Pueblo style, and what I call the neo-traditional style, which kind of fits the best to me. It's looking back basically at things that are traditional and moving them forward and making them more green and using them to make a green structure. It's a variety of older types of things that have been used in the past to make a structure green. Both the ranch style and the Pueblo style would require slightly higher buildings, at least 1.5 feet higher in order to accomplish the same things. The Pueblo style, in order to deal with the solar panels, you'd have to either raise it up another 18 inches, have flat solar panels which are less efficient, or have the solar panels visible from around the house. The overhangs, I have overhangs on all of these. The overhangs are a lot less efficient when you have to do them as eyebrows. I'm trying to build a house that is, as much as possible, is efficient to build from a construction standpoint as well as energy efficiency. Let's see. Let's see overhangs again. Oh, there's two parts of the overhangs. One is the overhang for the heating of the house from the south side, and the other is the indirect light from the north side. So both of those are important. The roof structure on the ranch-style house, I figure I can use a structural insulated panel, which is a fairly efficient method of construction. The Pueblo house, the existing house I did is a Pueblo. It is a very inefficient construction method. It was probably efficient when they did it with mud and logs and that type of thing, but to do it these days is very inefficient. You end up having to build the structure, you have to build another roof on top of it to get the slopes, and you have to have parapet walls. It just gets to be very inefficient. The most efficient that I found is the metal roof, where the metal is actually the structure and the roof. So that's the neo-traditional style. Then I looked at the same style. The Pueblo obviously is the same style as the existing house. And the ranch style is obviously the same style as many other houses in the neighborhood. The massing, the lowest house is the one that has the arched roof on it. The other two get taller or are quite a bit taller. As far as compatible with surroundings, the Pueblo style I think is the least compatible because with it being on the hill, if you have to go up straight up with the walls and put a parapet on top of that, then you end up getting taller and it's more visible. The ranch style allows for the roof to come down a little bit and kind of blends in with the surroundings and the ground slope, and the arched roof does that best, in my opinion at least. Green roof. I didn't have on the project before a green roof. I have now, actually initially, what got me going on to the roof style was this picture. This is a picture from a house that's in Switzerland, and they have several of these in Switzerland. I contacted the people. They do not export this technology. It's not available in the United States.
The roofing material?
Well, not the roofing material, it's obviously just grass, but the structure below it. And so then I kind of said, okay, I can't find it here, so I can't do it. I then took it off the plans and just left the curved roof on. Now I've gone back and done more research and found that while this technology is not available, there is a way of doing a green roof on the roof structure that I'm proposing. It's different than this, but it'll work as well. So now I'm proposing to put a green roof on. The green roof could also go on top of the ranch-style house. It could also go on top of the Pueblo style, although if you put it on top of the Pueblo style, nobody'd ever see it because you'd have these parapet walls that cover it and nobody'd see it. And it's also very inefficient to do it on the Pueblo roof. Then, what do we got here? I can read upside down. Just think it. Oh, I've attended a lot of the Plan Santa Barbara meetings and hearings, and I feel that the structure that I'm proposing with a green roof, with the arched roof and the ICF walls and everything is most in keeping with the Plan Santa Barbara goals of having, using the least energy and being the most efficient, having least footprint on the resources, and so I've shown it that way. And I came up with the Pueblo style being the least, having the lowest points, the ranch style, and then the neo-traditional style. And with that, I'd like to roll out the plans. And here's a set for down that direction. Here's a set for down this direction. And you get the colored ones. So this is the overall site. You can see what I have here is the roof section is completely covered with either green roof or solar panels, and then I have a porch in the front that has a green roof on it as well. All the paving associated with the site would be permeable paving. Some of it would be pavers. I know that there's concern about the gravel. I'm looking at alternatives that would allow for the most permeability but not have the noise associated with the gravel, so I'm looking into that. And what I'm looking at primarily is kind of what I call the double X type of pavers that allow water to go in between them. So I have the floor plans for each of them. You can see the lower level is the garage, some gray water and solar type areas, and then storage. Upstairs I have a bedroom, a kitchen, a great room, and a den with a bathroom. And here again is the roof structure. Here I've shown a detail of the roof at the eave. You can see a large gutter face that covers the end of the roof, the solar panels that cover this side, a green roof on top, and then the walls down below. This is kind of a first shot at what it would look like as far as the detail of the roof with the various layers that are associated with the green roof. The greenery on top would be sedum, and it's interesting, I found that you can actually get sedum plants in a mat, and you just roll it out and put it on the roof, and it's an instant green roof. These are some the elevations. So here's the front elevation. I've done is reworked the driveway into the house so that it doesn't have retaining walls on either side of it at all. It's simply boulders going back up close to the house to have a little bit steeper, and then it widens out. And then you have the walkway up to the front door, and a little arch, green roof arched over the front door. And then in the back, I added an eyebrow, which is a green roof component over the smaller garage door that allows access to the rear part of the property. Expanded the porch to have more of a porch area. And then these are just the side views of the same thing.
Where is this on the elevation?
So this curved roof is curved roof.
That's just the little
and this
entry porch.
Yeah. And this post is the post that you see here.
And what's that right there? That is?
That's next to the garage. So this wall actually goes down, and then you can go in from the garage here and into the door. There's a man door into the lower area down below.
Your mic needs to turn back on.
No, see, that's right. Okay, so there's a man door back in there. You can't see it.
Yeah, it's kind of right down in here.
Okay.
And then the last sheet I have here is just overview of the landscaping. As you can see, I'd be putting a lot of landscaping on the site. This shows the green roof and shows some of the sedum type plants that would be in the roofing material.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have anything on this, Tony?
Mr. Chair, if you recall, this needs comments to go to the staff hearing officer to just make a decision on the performance standard permit to have a second dwelling unit on a single-family lot.
Yeah, it's got to go to the staff hearing officer for that. And I suppose we make some kind of a recommendation on that, right?
Right. Probably think in terms of the NPO findings, whether or not an additional unit's acceptable, its location, access, et cetera.
But do we have any letters of protest?
We have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury, and we have a no, we don't have any public speaker slips.
I'm going to open up public comment anyway. Anybody like to address the board on this particular application should come forward now. Seeing no one stand, I'll close public portion, and it is to the board for your questions and or comments.
I guess I have a question, which is, since we are considering making an exception to allow two houses on the lot, even though it's a big lot, and I did drive up there and I walked all around, is there any way that you could think about reducing the size of the house so that it wasn't 110% of the maximum?
Okay. I'd be glad to address that. I think it's on the first sheet here where I just kind of summarized that.
So, Mr. Chair, just a note on that 110 FAR. The FARs are not really applicable when you have two houses on a lot.
It's counting, right, it's counting both of them.
Yeah, and also when the lot is really big, I think the FAR calculation breaks down. It doesn't reflect, you say a FAR of 110% on a 10,000 square foot lot, you know what you're talking about. But when it's a 50,000 square foot lot, it doesn't have the same kind of meaning.
If you're interested in the calculation, I could divide the lot area in half.
Actually, I did that.
You did that? Okay.
And so what I did was divide the lot area in half and then put the existing house and structures on one lot and this new one on the second lot, just for calculation purposes. And the coverage with the new house on half the lot would be 7%, which would be about 37% of the FAR guideline. And it'd still be a guideline because it'd still be more than 15,000 square feet, even on half the lot. And then with the existing larger house, the coverage is about 16%, and the floor area ratio is about 87%. So I think
that's there
right. So I think that gives you a better perspective compared to other houses that you look at.
Other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
What portion of the landscape is already installed versus
Let's see. All the stuff around the edges all of the hedges and the oak trees and pepper trees and stuff that are around the edges and on this side are all in. Most of the material in this area has already been planted. When they did the grading, they finished this area first, so I was able to plant some plants before the summer came. I have some plants here. The pipe with the creek bed, the dry creek bed, is already in, and I've got some plantings around that, some plantings in this area. I basically just started.
This is sort of proposed middle.
Yeah, everything around here. I delayed putting it in because it was getting on to summer, and I didn't want to be watering it all summer. Since it's all drought-tolerant plants, it goes best if you plant it in the fall.
Other questions? Paul, were you going to start asking a question?
I was
saw
just
you
going to
reaching.
jump straight into comments.
Okay.
First of all, I don't have a problem with whatever we have to do with the staff hearing officer to allow a secondary structure on this parcel. I can see the lot's large enough, the design, the house, the land can support a house. The city does not like, or in the process of piecemealing permits, where we should look at everything all as one collective whole. And the difficulty I have with this project and the design of this structure, not the concept of putting a house there, I don't have a problem with, but the concept of this structure is the fact that we built up a whole bunch of soil just to carve a way to get the driveway in. So I strongly can't support the design that you have because of the way you address the garage, because you have a motor court or a turnaround area, and then we're digging down 6 feet to get into here. And so if this came as a brand new project from day one saying I'm going to elevate the land and cut this out, we would steer you away from that. We didn't have that opportunity. You brought all the dirt up. Now we're building this secondary home here. So what I want to point out is some pictures that I see. The design you have is a great, cute design, or it's charming. But this is the way it's meant to be, where you come in at grade here, you have a house here, which is an understory, and then you build the upper structure. You've got several of those images in this area. Stairs come off to the side and go head on up. This is the roadway, and the stairs are up to here. They're kind of like a basement kind of thing. It's not where you came at this other end and you dove into it. So that's the difficulty I'm having with the layout. As for the architectural design style, I don't have a problem with it. Didn't have a problem with it before. I don't have a concern with the actual architectural materials and all that kind of issue, because I think your land is, because it's so large, can support a different architectural style. So, but my concern is the addressing the garage and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Glenn, how do you feel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Same sort of feeling about the garage. I went back to our minutes, and I think we were pretty clear as the board. We voted that that wasn't our first option of putting the garage below. We asked the applicant to study putting the garage at the upper elevation. So I don't think the applicant has really studied that, and I think the board had a pretty strong feeling about it. So I can't support, for the same reasons Paul just described. Stylistically, actually was a little bit in favor of the Pueblo style, sort of matched up with your house. But in just keeping everything open-minded, I can accept the green roof better than I could the exposed metal from last week, and I understand that. So stylistically, I'm moving in that direction that I could accept the style. I don't know how to resolve the garage part or the layout part yet, and that's going to be your dilemma, I guess.
Okay. Bernie, you have any comment?
How do you feel about it, Mr. Chair?
Well, I usually get to speak last.
Well,
I'll speak.
I'm going to let Aaron go.
Okay. As far as the style, I think I like the Pueblo style to match the existing house with the green roof. I don't think it's that bad of a thing to see the green roof, or not to see it. Sometimes they don't look that great. But I know we're sort of maybe past the siding of the house, but I can't support this house for different reasons because of where it's located. We've built a man-made berm, and we're putting the house at the highest point of that berm. Even though we're digging in, we're violating our hillside design guidelines by building on a ridgeline. We have 230 cubic yards of grading for an accessory structure. Our guidelines say 250 cubic yards is acceptable for a normal size house. Avoid interrupting natural ridgelines and skylines. Set the house below these. We're not doing that. Fit in with hillside topography and background. Well, sort of. But I just feel we're violating so many of our guidelines that I just can't support this house where it is. I can definitely support an accessory structure on this site, but not where it is.
Right. I still feel strongly that the guideline that says a new structure on a site should be the same style as the existing structure is a good guideline, and it's worth following. I think that the existing house that you did is quite a handsome house and is more in character with the neighborhood than this is. This is a real departure in terms of its, what did you call it?
Neo-traditional?
Neo-traditional. That's a clever one. But
it's the closest I can find.
The neighborhood, the character of the neighborhood is not necessarily being like the house across the street, or being, you can do all these photo things and show that there's all different kinds of houses in a particular neighborhood, but neighborhoods do have a certain character, and a Pine Drive, or whatever they call Pine Drive, it has a particular character that I think is most represented by these little houses here that you showed, or that you pointed to, Paul, and that's the dominant character, and it's the charming character, and this charm is a key word in the Pine Drive neighborhood. And this house here, it might be green and it might get a LEED's gold medal or something, but it's not charming, and that's a problem. Part of it is not necessarily the green roof, but it's the fenestration, and the way these windows are composed is not, in my estimation, very good and charming architecture, and they just are the wrong proportions for the walls, and it's not beautiful. That's what it comes down to. I think that you could put a green roof in the Pueblo style, and I agree the Pueblo style may still be the right way to go. I have an adobe house in Taos. It has a flat roof on it, but it has overhangs. It doesn't have it's not the typical parapet. It has overhangs, and it was done in the 30s when the Pueblos, the architect, it's all adobe, but they were starting to put flat roofs on with overhangs, because some architects recognized that overhang protected the adobe better, and there was an efficiency to it. The old Pueblo style, by the way, with the parapet, the purpose of that parapet was to collect snow, because the Indians were very smart and they knew that snow was a wonderful insulator, and that's what kept the inside of their pueblos warm in the wintertime, was this 2 feet of snow that was trapped on behind these parapets. That was the reason for it. We don't necessarily need to do that anymore, so you could have maybe a flat roof and still have a thing. But I think that the fenestration is really important, and it needs to be studied much more carefully. I agree that the digging out the berm that you made is just wrong, and you've got to figure out something else for that. But these don't have to go on the roof either. They can go on the ground. We have panels at our house, and they're down below the swimming pool on the grade, and then you can make them at exactly the right angle that they need to be set at. These are really pretty flat and not as nearly as efficient as they could be if they were someplace else on site and with the 45-degree angle or whatever it is. So I don't think you're there on this particular thing. You're not going to get my vote on it. Now, Bernie.
Mr. Chair, it just doesn't sound like there's any collective really support for, I'm confused.
Well, I don't think.
I'll join you.
I don't think that I don't know what you're confused about. There's not support for this particular project as it's presented.
Well,
It's not our responsibility to design it for an applicant. Our responsibility is to review a design. There is not support for this design as it's presented, for a lot of different reasons. Different people have different reasons. I don't like the architecture. Other people don't like the garage beneath. I think we all agree that building a man-made berm and then digging into it and setting the house up on top of it is not the right thing to do. And so it just isn't. You just don't have a good solution here, and you don't have any support.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Is there some more discussion maybe that needs to take place as far as siting the building? If we're not going to get support to put a house on top of the hill in that location, the applicant is just never going to come to a solution that we're going to be happy with.
But I would disagree with that in some respects, because if we did a one-story house or even a two-story house on top of the berm, then it's fine. It's the fact that where my one little plea for concern is the fact that we had to dig down 6 feet to do the understory of the garage. And my also concern was that I always wanted to see what the existing grade was, so that so that if he was to build a two-story on top of basically where the motor court was, that we still weren't higher than what our 30-foot height limits was from the existing grade before the berm was created. So I don't have a problem with the siding. It's the architecture and it's the solution that's being presented as the issue.
Well, the bottom line is that there, for different reasons, there's not support for what you're presenting.
I don't know. I guess to reinstate where I was coming from the last meeting and this meeting is it's lower here than here.
Yeah.
And if you put the house here, it's going to be nestled behind the berm.
Yeah, then you'd be okay.
It's not going to be sticking out over this man-made berm. This is natural soil here. That wasn't created, really.
Not.
Well, it's flat building pad area.
It is flat now.
So that's where
That was actually steeper there than before.
And he offered us a one-story solution here, and now it's a two-story up high. And
one thing I didn't point out that I'd like to be able to point out if I could, is this does show all of the existing cross-section underneath here, and you can see that within a foot or two, this house, if there wasn't any berm there, would be sitting on the ground. If I didn't build that berm, this house would have sat on the ground and be a two-story house on the ground. There's a berm there for sound purposes, so they don't hear the sound constantly from the freeway, and that is around the house. Yeah. This is not sitting on top of the berm by any means. It's
but when you move into this house, you will have the sound from the freeway.
That's why I have fixed glass.
What?
Fixed glass. They're triple glazed. The walls are all concrete and insulated concrete form, so it'll stop the noise.
I can only suggest two things. We can continue this, and you can come back with a new design, trying to incorporate the concerns that a majority of the board members have, or we can deny it. I don't know if we can take a motion to deny. This has to go to the. We could send you to the staff hearing officer first, but I think that's wrong to do that, because the design is not acceptable to the board, and
Just a suggestion.
I think we could.
Would help me.
Can we, Tony? Can we deny this and let him go to City Council with it? At this stage, the concept just isn't acceptable for a whole bunch of different reasons. Everybody has their different reason for why they don't. It's not acceptable, but it's not acceptable.
Didn't
We're not
you look
talking
at
about
several
details
sites?
here.
You looked at several possible placements last time, right? And you
Right.
picked one.
And
You
picked
picked
this
this
one.
one. Do you want to work on it more, Bruce?
One thing that would be helpful to me is we do have different reasons on why all the panel people do not want to approve this project. It would help if we could have more clarification on which ones are the important ones to everybody. Because if I go back and redesign, I might be able to address one, but then somebody else would be against it.
There's another thing, and I hesitate to do this, and I've been doing this for 23 years, and I hardly have ever said this, but this may be the case where you need to hire an architect. You are not an architect, and maybe you need. I know you're an engineer, and that's important, but sometimes architects need engineers, and sometimes engineers need architects, and maybe you need that professional help. And somebody else to say, no, you can't do that, Bruce. Somebody else to listen to. No, it's just it's a suggestion. It's a suggestion because you're not going anyplace with this.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
For the board? Would we want to consider a Site B as another option, since maybe the berm and the top of the hill isn't maybe going to work?
Mr. Chair, I would just say carry forward the comments from the previous meeting and indefinite continuance, because you've heard what we have to say and what Bill was saying, and give it some thought and come back with another solution and make this your last solution, because if collectively or individually we are not in support of it, we don't have a problem with denying it, and you feel strong enough that you can go to the City Council and say, this is my structure for all these reasons and we want to build it this way. They might say that's fine, or they'll go back and look at the board and all of the comments that we're saying. So I'd like to give the applicant one more chance and go back and listen to the tapes over on the internet and design one more.
Okay, is that a motion?
It's a motion for indefinite continuance, bringing forward the 3 comments from the previous meeting.
Okay. Is there a second?
One second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Bruce, you've got to give it a very, very careful consideration. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 4, which is 1727 Calle Baca del Cañon, or Canyon.
I have to excuse myself on this particular one.
Okay, Bernie's going to step down on this one, and I think you're going to leave on Rometto. Yeah.
Oh.
What?
I think it was more than 2 years ago. I'm just trying to figure out if I was involved in a real estate. I know I never actively sold the property, but at one time I think there was something that I was working. It was for sale, right? The property was for sale. How long ago was that?
2005.
2005. So okay. All right. Well, then I guess I'm okay.
I think you're. You didn't take any money, did you?
I didn't take.
You didn't earn any money?
No, but I do need to take a restroom break then if I miss.
We're going to take a. I think what we're going to do, Bernie, we're going to go ahead and let you do that because we're so far behind, and we're just going to keep. The 4 of us are going to keep going on this.
Okay, keep going. I'll be.
We won't go very fast.
Okay.
Let me read the. We'll start by reading the. This is 1727 Calle Baca del Canon. Is it Canon or Cañon?
Cañon.
Cañon.
Boca del Cañon.
Cañon. Okay. This is a proposal to convert an existing attached one-car garage to habitable space and provide an uncovered parking space in the driveway in front of the converted garage. Staff hearing officer approval of the modification is requested for one of the 2 covered spaces to be uncovered and for the uncovered space to be located within the interior setback The property has an existing 1,100 square foot two-story single-family residence, an attached 240 square foot one-car garage, and a 200 square foot detached one-car carport. The total of 1,600 square feet on 6,700, about 6,800 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District has a FAR 56%. This is comments only. Project requires environmental assessment and staff hearing officer approval of that particular modification that you're requesting. So if you'd give your name for the record, sir.
Davis Hayden.
Anne Marie Flavel.
And you are?
Husband, wife.
Husband and wife. Okay. Okay. That's clear enough. I didn't know whether you were the architect or what. So. So we'll start off here by maybe you have some pictures of the neighborhood. Do you have?
Yes, I do.
Let's start off with those first. Bernie's gone, but see, she's back, and she's very familiar with the neighborhood anyway. So here we have this is Valerio coming up here, right?
Yes.
And this is your street coming up here.
Right, and there's only a few houses left up here. It's a very short street. It
it's very
ends
short.
Here.
And there's one kind of behind you here somewhere,
Yes.
the driveway up behind you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is, now where's your street?
Here's Cariboca.
Okay, there's Cariboca.
And our property line is like this.
That's funny.
It's a very unusual property line.
It really is.
And this is our carport up above.
Mm. Oh my word.
Show that driveway.
And this is the driveway. And this is the garage that's inside of our house, our small house.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have a setback line drawn on here. What kind of setbacks do we have here?
Well, this is all our property here.
Yeah, but there's a setback, a yard setback.
Okay, that's from here?
Well, it's always measured from your property line. Your side yard setback would be 6 feet. Let's see, what is this? This is R1 zone. 6 feet on the side and 20 feet in front, right?
Correct.
So somewhere along here, there's a 20-foot. So you are 13 feet here?
Looks like it.
The curve is here.
The curve of the street is here.
Yeah, but where's the property line
Right
in
here.
front? Yeah.
Goes along here. And the other neighbor's property line actually cuts way in front of ours here.
Yeah. So it looks like this has a probably a legal non-conforming front yard here, Tony. Our R1 zone has a 20-foot front yard, right?
It's 20 feet for a two-story building and 15 for one story.
Also. So this is a one-story or two. I drove by there the other day, but I couldn't.
It's half and half. It's Here's a picture.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, that front lot line is very odd because the interior setback, or the interior, curves around.
Yeah, but we're talking about right here in front, right on the street.
It looks like it says 13, but
That corner right there, this fireplace right here is, where's that in this photograph?
Right here.
So we're talking about that corner then right there.
Yes, it looks like it.
Oh, so that's the thing. This is setback more, and this is setback less.
Yes, the top.
This is 13 feet, though. It's supposed to be 15 feet. So it's a little bit. There's a little bit of a non-conformance here. It's not a problem. I mean,
Okay.
it's what we call legal non-conforming, I'm sure, but it's a.
Well, we didn't build the house or get these permits or anything like
Right,
that. That was the person.
And
who
this little thing here that's this walkway coming up there.
Yes. And there's a fence railing here that's covered with vegetation and bamboo planted in here.
And this driveway is shared by this house up here?
Yes, that's true.
So you have the carport there.
And they have two carports here.
They have two carports.
And so here's another view that you can see what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another view. That's with a car parked where we're asking to have the open space parking.
Tony, it looks like also that probably this carport it may be permitted, but it doesn't have the proper setbacks.
Actually, go ahead.
Well, it also takes advantage of an easement on the neighbor's property for the maneuverability.
Actually, this came before. We have a videotape of this coming before the ABR, where they discussed that point and the poles. And the pole is 5 feet back, and the point is not. And in the ABR, they said that they would allow
acceptable.
that. That was acceptable, and it's on a videotape.
Okay. So, you're proposing to fill in this garage here and park the car out here.
Yes.
That's really it in a nutshell, isn't it?
That's close to it in a nutshell. Part of the problem is that the owner-builder we bought it from put in an 8-foot garage door. And so it makes it very difficult to drive in and out. And I have a picture of what that looks like for our car. We have a mid-size SUV, and this is trying to get into that narrow space.
8 feet is very narrow.
So you can get a sense of it from that.
Well, it takes 2 people.
Yeah, it takes 2 people to drive it in or out.
I agree. But you could have a motorcycle.
We could have a
Electric golf cart.
A couple of Harleys. Anyway, okay. So this is the second.
This is the lower floor.
So this is what you're proposing to do in the garage?
This is an odd house. It's quite interesting house. There are rooms underneath the driveway.
The kitchen.
So half of our house, or not half, a third of our house is actually under the driveway. And so these rooms are under the driveway.
I see.
And then...
But where's that room?
That's the dining. That is this kitchen is under the driveway. That's one of these rooms that...
Well, where's the garage then?
Well, that's the next one.
It's above it.
It's above?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's dug in.
No, it's got big steel reinforcement, actually big beams this way, so that the car can park on top of the dining room. These are skylights for the access of light to the underground rooms.
But where is the ventilation? How do you ventilate those rooms?
These skylights all have electronic openers.
And there are windows.
They're
because
windows.
It's open from the kitchen and the dining room. I know. Sam Hurst.
You thought you were creative, didn't you?
This is a Sam Hurst created house.
Okay. Oh my God, that's quite interesting. Quite interesting.
But the problem is, of course, that it actually ends up being a very small house, and the only room in it that's a bedroom.
So what are you proposing?
Is this mezzanine that overlooks the living room? Well, because the door is small and we can't really use it, they had to put sheer walls. We got this from the carpenters. They had to put sheer siding here so that I think it would be very difficult to widen it or anything. So what we'd like to do is, because there's a new ordinance that allows open space parking, we'd like to have this become a living space and have our parking here in front, which I think you have several photos that show what that would look like if you were to do that. This is a photo of what it would look like going up the street.
I took it this morning, and there's a car parked.
There is a car parked there, and as you can see, because of the vegetation and the angles and the way everything is, you can't hardly even see the car that's parked there when you're driving
Is
up
that
the
this
street.
car right there?
Yes. And there's only, like I say, another 7 or 8 neighbors up at the street. So when you drive down the street, of course, you could see it. But all of our neighbors, I have a petition here. We pretty much talked to every neighbor we could find. And all of them are in full agreement with allowing us, with our proposal.
So what would this be? Yeah, there'd be the car.
So I don't know if you need these.
And would you put windows then? This is going to become a bedroom or a...
No, that would actually, we would take this siding and reuse it, and we would put a door on one side of it and just make a solid wall there. That's actually...
There are already windows in that room facing...
Oh yes, you saw it. There's actually, the owner builder that we bought it from told us it was going to be a bedroom and built it as a bedroom. with heating underneath, with windows, with recessed lighting.
Radiant heat.
So that is actually advertised to us as a bedroom.
I see, but
But
it doesn't have a closet.
Well, that's what this is. This is what we proposed then, is that we'd have a door either opening inward or outward. It would depend on different things. And we'd put a walk-in closet here, and then the parking would be here.
And show the window. Show the window.
Well, there's windows here and windows here.
Well, you have a door here.
Right.
That goes into the house, right? Right now, that's a fire door. Garage fire door.
And there's already recessed lighting.
Not recessed.
Okay, I think we understand what you want to do. Tony, you have anything on this?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I wanted to mention to you that zoning staff is not supporting this mod request. I wanted to mention that because generally when we bring something to you, you can assume that staff is supporting it. So this case is an exception. The applicant wanted to proceed and take his chances and see if he could get this approved. The house is 56% of the max FAR, which is well below the 85 that in some cases can allow one uncovered parking space. But this application technically doesn't meet that requirement. The parking ordinance allows an exception to the requirement to have 2 covered spaces, but you have to meet 3 criteria. Well, you have to be below the 85% max FAR. One of those is the uncovered space shall not be located in any front yard. This does meet that because of that strange way that the neighbor's property curves around and is in between this proposed space and the street. It doesn't meet the second criteria that the uncovered space is not allowed to encroach into the interior setback. The way that side setback curves around would mean that part of this, a little bit of this parking space would encroach into the setback. So the applicant's asking for a modification to allow one uncovered parking space because it technically doesn't meet that exception that would allow it without a modification.
I think,
Okay.
if I could comment.
No, I don't want you to comment.
So the second modification request would be that small setback encroachment that I just mentioned, to have the uncovered space encroaching into the interior setback.
The car would sit there, right?
Yes.
And you consider that to be the side yard?
Yes. Although it looks like the front yard.
Show you something, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
This is 19.6, these 2 green tick marks.
Yes.
And there's 19.6.
Right, so you got to move it back, though, so it's more like that.
So transportation has looked at this, and they've okayed a parking space to be 17 feet long and 9 feet wide.
So it's a little less.
Well, yeah, so I was closer to something like that.
The transportation
All right, I'm going to
planners-
open up public hearing then.
Let me finish up my
Yes.
staff
Oh,
comments.
excuse me.
The transportation planners, they also said that the current standard for garage door width is 8.5 feet, but that 8 feet is acceptable per their standards. Garage doors are manufactured and sold at an 8-foot width. So they thought it could function as a parking space at 8 feet wide. And that's it.
All right, I'm going to open up public comment. I have one yellow slip here from a Sydney? Cindy? Okay. Why don't you sit down and give us your thoughts?
Mr. Chair, I really want to recuse.
Okay.
I think it would be better.
Okay, but we'll need you for the last item.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Bernie's going to step down because she feels she has a conflict.
Chair May and members of the board, my name is Cindy Souter, and I represent Thomas Felke, who originally did develop this parcel, and he also lives in the house. I'm going to get my microphone so I can reach and point at the same time. He lives here, which he is the neighbor that's the most impacted by this project.
He lives here?
He lives here, yes. And they share this driveway. And he is very opposed to the project because this proposed parking space is very problematic from just a functional and maneuverability standpoint for the property. Regardless of, well, your 10 by 20 standard space doesn't fit here. So the Public Works has agreed to go down to 17 feet. However, you can't control what size of car is going to be parked here or how close they're going to go to the garage door or not. So it's going to end up like, I think you had it drawn that way, or maybe Paul had it drawn that way, hanging over the property line, which creates off-site parking, which is obviously not allowed per the zoning ordinance. There's also a driveway easement here, and I don't know that this line actually reflects that driveway easement. I did an overlay in my office with similar scales, and to me it looks like the parking space is going to encroach into the easement as well in this corner over here. And then there's just the practicability of the design of this is a very steep driveway here, and I've got some photos to share with you in a moment. Pretty much anybody that comes up or down here, unless they've got, like a little Mini Cooper or something, has to back down the driveway. So it's already a very steep driveway you have to back down. And so to add more problems down here, obstacles to navigate around, it's just a problematic design. And then here, I'll just go through the pictures. This is from up above looking down. I think you'll clearly see here's the car parked here. There's a trash enclosure there as well. That's the proposed parking spot. Here's from the top looking down at the street. Now this area down here, where am I? Here. This isn't really developed right now, but if this parking space were to be approved, it would basically preclude him from doing any kind of landscaping or anything down here, just from the functional aspect of having to turn and go up this driveway, because if something's here, it's going to create an obstacle that you have to go around, which is going to force cars to, have to go more out in order before they go up. Does that make sense for their turn radius? And this is guest parking. Both houses use this little area for guest parking, so that's just an example. But it does show if you're trying to come in and there was a car here, how that would be problematic. Here's looking down the driveway, just showing how steep it is. Here's another, this is the back of it up, showing like if somebody was doing something in their car and it was parked here, you'd always have people in the way and doors, groceries, whatnot. It's the bottom looking up. Here's looking down at an angle. You can see how, again, at the steep driveway. Here's showing both properties. It's that little area where he'd like to do some landscaping.
It's okay. It's not.
Okay.
It's my thing here that when I lean forward for some reason it sings.
Okay. And this is just a picture looking down Kaiboka, and you can just see it's a narrow street already. There's no parking on one side. So going back to this little spot here, which isn't really a parking spot, but people do park here, is because in the evening, there's a lot of cars trying to find spots to park. So if that spot's available, people will park there. And it's just a picture of his vehicle in the carport up top if you wanted to see what the carport up top's like. But
Okay, thank you.
And I think
that's
I
pretty clear.
submitted a letter with some bullet points, and I think it's also important. The agendas and the project description don't describe this as as-built, but it is as-built, and I think it's important for your board to know that.
What is as-built?
The garage conversion is as-built. So,
Well, the door is-
staff's aware of it.
Okay.
But it just didn't end up in the agenda.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I make comments?
Oh, just a moment. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on this? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public hearing, and it is to the board for your questions to the applicant. I have a question. Is this in fact an as-built situation? The door is there already, and it's...
Her plan.
Or there are plans, approved plans?
That was the way the builder built it, and then we had to take it back before ABR, and so we went before ABR, and they looked at that plan, and they approved it.
There's no closet. No closet or anything like that in there. Yeah. Okay, that's that door that goes into your house, and that's the window there right around the corner there. We have other questions? Anybody?
Can I?
No, well, we ask our questions and make our comments, and then you can respond to that.
Okay.
What's your comment, Paul?
I think the house is an incredible house and all those things, but I can't support what you're asking for, and I'm glad to hear that staff didn't support it, because one of my questions was, what does staff have to say about this? Because as an architect, I play by the rules. I know what the rules are, and then to see this project come through and have staff say that they're in support of it, I would have gone. But I can name 3 other addresses where I would have tried this on my own, but I couldn't. So I can't support it for what we try to do in our town, and we have certain rules that everyone has to follow. As for your dilemma about the 8-foot wide door, if you want the door to be wider, there are metal strong walls that you can build and put in there that are only 12 inches wide, and they even have a steel moment frame that you can put in there. It'll probably be 8 inches wide, and you have 1'9" there right now. So you can go between. You can make an 8'6" wide garage door with going through some gymnastics, and you can park a car in there. But the house was approved as is, and I can't see supporting this mod.
Lynn?
Pretty short, but yeah, I can't support the project for pretty much the same reason Paul did. I think the zoning ordinances are there for a reason, and we need to abide by them.
Aaron? Well, my feeling was, and I visited the site yesterday, went by it, it is a narrow street. It is a fully developed neighborhood, and the houses are close together. They're not big lots. I just felt, a car out in. I still consider this to be the front yard, and whether it's technically the side yard, it's right in front. And I just didn't see that was an appropriate addition that would not enhance the neighborhood to have a car out there with no garage. And I think Paul's suggestion to go to a moment frame here, where you can get your. There's practically no seismic load on the end of that house, of that particular thing. That'd be very, very easy to engineer, and then you can get maybe you can even get up to an 8'10". You might even get a 9-foot. What is this across here totally?
I think it's total 10 feet.
Yeah, you could probably get a 9-foot door in there. And so there's not support for your application.
I guess I won't make any comments on the
Now you have
Sidney
two,
Souter.
you have 2 choices. I mean, we can make a motion to deny this, and you can take it to City Council, or you can just go back and try to figure out someplace else to put a car on site, not in the front, not in the front here, or you can do nothing. I mean, you have those 3 possibilities.
Well, it does not sound. I mean, I could go into other reasons why this house really needs that to be turned into a living space, and I can also pretty much counter everything Ms. Souter said, because most of it was not true. But at this point, it sounds like we don't have support. So.
Well, you don't have support from this board now. City Council might look at it differently.
Could we come back with a different design?
Yes, of course you can.
Okay.
We're here every other Monday.
So could I then resubmit a different design later on, but not this design, but a different design?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to entertain a motion to deny this application without prejudice. You can come back with a different solution.
Mr. Chair, why don't you just continue this indefinitely? There's no reason to deny it.
We'll continue it indefinitely.
Thank you.
With the comment?
With the comment that we don't find the parking stall in the driveway to be acceptable, and we think that there is a solution for widening the garage door.
Thank you.
That's structurally sound.
Okay.
So I'll entertain that motion then. So moved.
Doesn't make any difference.
Seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and thank you for bringing the comments from your neighbors. We do recognize that you've done some neighborly work, and we appreciate that. But the board can't support your application. Okay, now we're going to move on to item number 5, which is 803 Rometto Lane. This is a proposal for a 350 square foot addition to the first floor, a 690 square foot addition to the second floor. The project includes a new deck, entry porch, remodeling the existing 1,800 square foot one-story single-family residential attached 500 square foot two-car garage is located on 40,000 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District. The proposed total of 3,800 square feet has a FAR of 77%. And this action may be taken if sufficient information is provided. So if you people would give your names for the record.
Good evening. I'm Sophie Calvin, designer, and this to my right is the owner, Jane Barrett.
Derek Eichelberger, Arcadia Studio.
Hi.
Hello.
Well, welcome all. I'm sorry that we're running late, but we just had some difficult issues today to struggle with.
Here's your chance to make up
What's
time.
different on these plans than the ones we had ahead of time?
A little bit more hedging information, existing hedges on the site plan, and then one pair of doors, one door and one window changed to a pair of doors and side lights.
Because I know we did have one neighbor who was down looking at the plans
Yeah.
ahead of time.
I can point out to the
Okay.
committee as to what I added on the drawings. And then, of course, we have a landscape plan now.
Okay, you wanted to go through pictures here first?
That'd be great.
There's
So the property is located Alston and Rometto Lane, so kind of near Brooks campus, but heading towards Santa Barbara a little bit, and it's a cul-de-sac. And there's a big long, and actually this map might be a little more helpful. We notified the 20 neighbors because the FARs were at 77% of FARs.
You don't have to do it.
85% you have to do it, but anyway, we've
Okay.
done it anyway. We've done it.
We were told by staff that we it doesn't
You won't
matter.
get paid for it, but you.
Okay, so here's the cul-de-sac, and here's her project, and these were the 20, the gray ones that were noticed. We've actually met with this neighbor, and she's the one that's here now, Mrs. Ray Haskell, and then I've spoken on the phone with this neighbor, who's directly to the north of the project. So, pictures. You have the rest of the stack of them.
I do.
Okay,
I'm
so
fogging them.
So coming up the driveway, and actually this is a shared driveway with this parcel, and I put the footprint on here of the neighbors, and that was taken from this aerial photograph provided by Public Works. So here's the cul-de-sac, here's the driveway, here's my client's house, and the driveway continues up to a two-story house there, and the carport, which you'll see in a couple of the photographs. This shaped house, kind of U-shaped house, is actually in this photograph here. It is a flat roof. So I'm standing on the front patio looking down in this direction at that rooftop. And then the neighbor who is here, she lives in this house to the west. And I brought a couple extra photos which might help describe the screening that currently exists along this property line, and taking a picture standing on the patio looking down towards here. There's a little trellis. It's a that's a trellis kind of work shed, and then the house beyond. And then here's the carport of the house that I was telling you here.
That's a neighboring house.
That's the neighboring to the east.
Okay.
And then you have...
this your house here?
Yeah, so you drive into this driveway, and there's an existing garage and an accessory room above. So that's an existing two-story, correct. And then there's actually the front doors on the back. So you go through this breezeway and around to the existing front door, which we're proposing to keep in the same location. It is currently a single-story house.
That's this right here. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some better pictures. Well, that's more of the garage, but this is the backyard, which is all back in here. That's where our open yard space is. And here's the front porch. So the house actually from down here, Derek has a very good picture from down in this location to show that you really can't.
You can't see it. I was there yesterday.
Okay. So we're proposing to add approximately 350 square feet to the front. And the only portion, and if you don't mind, I'd like to move to the floor plan.
Yeah.
Clearly show this a little bit better. Okay, so now you're looking at the plans the opposite way. So this is viewing down towards the ocean. We're adding just a little bit of square foot, 40 square feet, where the house currently already recesses back. So we're gaining a little bit more room. This house is a 2-bedroom house with an art studio above here. My client has children, so she needs more square footage. We are adding most of the square footage in the rear of the property that wouldn't be seen. So enlarging this bedroom, making a powder room, making a larger bathroom, and then we are adding a second story. So we need the stairwell to get up to the second floor. We're concentrating the second floor in this location because there are currently some vaulted ceilings in the living room and the den. So on the second floor, this is the stairwell coming up, and then the master suite, the new master suite proposed on the second floor, and a deck off the second floor. And we've actually kept the deck so that it didn't run the full length of the second story, just to keep it concentrated out towards the views. And then off to the west side of the property is this master bathroom, and towards the northwest is this closet. So no windows along this elevation, a toilet window here, and just this is actually a great view down towards the harbor and sunset, but it would only be really used by somebody in the tub. Roof plan. I'll go to the elevations. So currently the house is a combination of board and bat and plaster, and my client would like to make the whole structure board and bat, but adding stone. So a waterline stone around the house, and then stoning the whole front facade all the way around the existing garage, just to add
The lower portion.
the lower portion.
Santa Barbara sandstone.
We haven't selected A, but you're thinking in that Santa Barbara sandstone,
Yeah,
or
like a random rectangle square.
but in that
I
blonde
mean, that
color.
the
Beigey
typical
tint.
Santa Barbara color stone.
Yeah,
all
not
over.
an imported granite
Yeah,
type look. It's
good.
more
Not river
very
stone.
typical. What?
So
yeah.
this is the new,
So that's the new second story, and then this is the stairwell beyond, because to
that's
get
the
up the
stairwell
stairs.
beyond. This is the new second story here.
Yeah, so that's the toilet window that you see in the tub.
And this is...
So this is the rear of the house, so you have to walk through the breezeway to get to the new, we're putting a new covered entry at the front door, and then that's the stairwell, and then this is the bedroom addition that comes out slightly
That's
towards the north.
existing.
Existing, but we're just
Oh,
popping that
that's
existing
right.
roof line
You're
out.
expanding that a little bit, yeah.
Exactly. So this roof line exists. That's all that second story.
Okay. And Aaron has he left on this one, didn't he? So we don't have to look, we're not going to look at the landscaping very much, because I guess we can look at it a little bit. We're going to look at it. We are going to look at it. You just won't understand any of the Latin names. That's the... Now let's put it right side up for us.
There's a couple of architectural aspects to this that you should be aware of.
You know, we should have it white. Yeah, that would be better. There we go.
I had some other pictures if you're feeling you didn't get enough, but we're proposing right now, because the main entry to the house is here.
Mhm.
There's a lack of sort of
direction.
Exactly. So we're trying to create a sort of pergola entry that would be board and batten wood with a controlled gate entry and a call box. So it would be friendlier, and it would actually create some security. So there's that. And then the existing concrete deck that's here comes out about 10 feet. We're proposing that be pushed out to 13 feet with another 3 feet for a seat wall, and then a planter, and then we're putting a spa off of this studio here. That would make this, so from here over to here is 3 feet. This is a seat wall. It would be 3 feet above this deck. This deck level stays the same elevation as the existing, but that does make this about a 5 to 5.5 foot projection on that slope. This wall continues at the same elevation as the deck, and would only be about 3 to 4 feet.
These have the stone also?
Probably stucco with stone cap, unless you advised otherwise.
And I probably would screen it.
It would definitely be screened. There's a huge mass of juniper that would take out most of it right now.
And this is some kind of permeability.
Exactly. That's a concrete, new concrete driveway with little turf joints.
Okay, I think we got it. Tony, do you have anything on this?
No staff comments.
No staff comments. Okay, I have.
Mr. Chair, can I bring up one thing since
Yes.
it's bound to come up?
Okay.
There's some concern from the neighbor about existing screening on this side of the building and the addition. There is a medium-sized podocarpus tree here, about 15 feet tall, and there's a 4 to 5 foot continuous ligustrum hedge that currently does a fair job of screening this side. In order to sort of add on to that, we're proposing to add 3 more 36-inch box Podocarpus gracilier that will create more of a second level screen. We don't want to make it like a wall, but so we're going to...
Is this a setback line here?
Yes.
So this is over the setback?
That was a previous modification.
The previous owner got a modification and
Okay,
expanded
and you're
the
not
closet.
making any changes
No.
to that, and you're not doing a second story on top
No.
of that
No.
part? Okay, now I will open up public comment. I do have a yellow slip here from Ray Haskell. You'd step forward and you can address the board. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm the neighbor to the immediate west of the property. I met with the owner and the designer and walked them through my house, my master bedroom and master bath and spa area, which are directly adjacent to the second story addition.
We have that on the site plan here, just to orient us. You are right here?
Yes, I'm at 812.
Yeah,
And
that's...
so
that's
my
812.
master bedroom, master bath, spa, all sit right here. And of course, the beautiful view they have of the harbor also is a beautiful view of my bathroom and bedroom. And then they have a water closet on this side. And of course, the balcony also has a line of sight of the same area. So, you know, privacy was one issue. As I explained in the email, the base of this property is about, the grade is about 5 to 6 feet above the grade of mine. So it already is above me, and then you build another story on top. It not only becomes imposing, but of course my primary issue is privacy.
Of course.
I did bring signatures from this neighbor and actually it's 4 neighbors, one below, 2 in here, and this one, who are also opposed to the second story.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing me.
Okay, Tony, we're going to put those into the file. Those are 4 letters of in opposition.
Mr. Chair, we also have a letter in opposition from Paula Westbury.
Okay, that's noted. Does anybody else like to address the board? I see no one in the audience, so I'll close public hearing. It is to the board for your questions and or comments. Let's go back here and look at the floor plan again of the second floor. So, yeah, the setback's right there. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I have a question, basically because I'm a little bit ignorant of landscaping, but on the landscaping plan, there were some podocarpuses shown as new. I guess these 2 were new.
There's 3 new ones and 1 existing.
And how tall do these get?
As a tree, they'll turn into 30-foot trees.
At least 25 feet, 20 to 25.
So that if that window is right here on the second level, I mean, this will basically screen the view of the harbor? in that direction?
I think the owner realizes there's also oh, I'm sorry, I'm on. I think there's also a fairly unattractive power pole right here. So we're both screening the power pole and giving up a portion of view in order to try and cooperate with the neighbor. I mean, there's views from everywhere in this house, so the idea of maintaining every single view, doesn't make sense.
And to follow up on that, Glenn, why not eliminate that window? Or
make it higher,
glass
or
block,
something,
or if you could have the light, or make it higher, or something like that. I have in my house, I have 4 bathrooms. We have 4 bathrooms in our house. Every single one of them is lighted by a skylight, and we love it. It's better light. I'm telling you, it's better light for a bathroom. You don't really have to sit there and look out the window. You could have a skylight there, and it lights up the bathroom wonderfully, and you can, so you have mechanical ventilation, or you can have ventilation in the skylight, and so you could really solve those 2 problems and get on with it.
This one already is raised, so that's higher, right? So that's not a problem.
Just for ventilation.
From that, yeah. I would like to have the light. I was going to suggest that. I know the neighbor is concerned about her privacy,
Make this higher than
but nobody's going to be you'd have to be standing in the tub to be looking down over at her property. It isn't a public place. It isn't a place for viewing. It isn't a place you'd even walk up to and look out of.
If you're not going to look out of it, stand up in the tub and look out of it, then you can solve the light problem in some other way. And we won't have a problem with the neighbor at all. And it just seems like that's a reasonable thing to do. That if we can find another solution, why fight? Why try to accomplish something when you can find another solution that architecturally does the same thing? If a light is either for view or for window, either for light or for view. And if it isn't for view, if it's not for you looking out of, provide the light some other way, either higher or obscure glass, or take the window out, put a big skylight in here. There's all different kinds of ways to solve light in the bathroom that can be very exciting and wonderful. And there's going to be a power pole out here. I think that we could probably ask you to study it and to solve the light problem in some other way.
Can I turn that at elevation and see what the board's comments? So if this was a shorter window, just up high, would the board accept that?
Probably, yeah.
And how?
I was just going to say, I'm just wondering if we've
Skylight up there.
Discounted the screening that we suggested. Because that...
Pardon? The screen. No, but the screening screening is not as good a solution to a problem as architecture is. If you can solve it architecturally, don't try to solve it with the landscape. If there's no other way to do it, then yes, we accept landscaping as a mitigation to solve a problem. But if you can do a high window here and a skylight here, you don't have a problem. You can plan anything out there you want. And maybe you want to do it but if this is 15 feet from this is more than 15.
It's a lot more.
Yeah,
this is 10.
Yeah,
and then we got probably another 10.
That meets our guideline. I'm getting into comments here too fast.
I'll jump into comments.
Okay,
that's where we're at.
I actually don't have the same concerns. I mean, you're telling the applicant or highly suggesting to make a skylight up here, and I wouldn't. I mean, I don't see this as an issue. The amount of concern, you're not going to be standing in the toilet looking over here. If anything, pick up the sill to be like 4 feet, 4.5 feet, and still keep a window here.
Or raise the sill.
Raise the sill. Pick up the sill. I mean, you don't have to go with the skylight because you'd like the long distance view. And what I was going to comment in here for these windows, it is a good solution to pick up the window and you can still capture a long distance view. But I wanted to point out to the board is, at one time we kind of said we'd like the second story to be 1.5 times the setback, so that puts it at like 15 feet. So if we were to put the Well, that was an old NPO kind of rule. Or so if you were 10 here, you'd be 15. So if said the second story was here, no one's really going to be in the bathtub. It's mainly for standing here, and it's a long-distance view shot. So I'm not too concerned, but if they're willing to pick up this thing, because I think you have some privacy issues when you're, using the bathtub. You want to have some privacy as well. So picking that up will afford you some privacy. Question I had for Stoffy. So that was just, I'm kind of disagreeing with them, but it's your choice. Go however you want to. In elevation, and Bernie won't like me for my comment over here, I'm wondering why this plate height was higher than this plate height, because this is where the master bedroom suite is, and you're really nice by providing an 8-foot plate. But I would have done it in the reverse, is I would have made this the 8-foot plate and popped that up to 9 foot to get more of a ceiling in the master suite. And so, but that makes that side elevation a little stronger. So are you keeping that 8 feet so you're kinder to that neighbor on the side?
Well, and we're vaulting the master bedroom. I mean, the ceilings in the closet and the master bathroom would be flat, but we are vaulting that. This will false frame this down in here, and this will be vaulted, and so 8 was sufficient.
This is low. I mean, that platform there is down in here somewhere.
But
right.
But that's what would clued me in on, is that this fascia was bigger than this fascia, so I would have always had this thing a smidgen lower, and instead you have it the other way around.
Right.
So this actually could be brought down to be a foot less than this, except there is a landing up here that might mess up some of the head height. But I think it should be noted, for the applicant's benefit, is that they do have an 8-foot plate on this side, that they're not being aggressive in trying to create some grandiose volumes.
Well, yeah, we were trying to keep in scale and keep it with the whole house, not just take one big addition and go, hey, we can...
In terms of composition, architectural composition, I think this being lower and that being higher that could be very, very charming. It could be very charming, and that this is maybe a little bit too imposing, and because it's smaller, visually it will seem taller, and that it would be better that it were lower. And as a stairwell, it can be lower.
It depends if they can get the headroom at that
landing. Yeah, sure. But if they got 8 foot at the top of the steps, that would work out. Or you could make that. Maybe that could go up to 8.6 or something like that. Those are details that you could study. But I think these are suggestions we would like to make. Is to reconsider these windows, raising the sill, or skylights, either one. Whatever suits you, and maybe thinking about getting this might come up a little bit, and this comes down and gets in. This fascia tucks in under this one.
Okay. Are you willing to move those 2 windows up, and they can maybe give us preliminary today?
Oh yeah, I kind of like that.
Well, that's something that I think they're open to discussion later.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
But if you could agree to the windows today, could the board review? Could they accept a preliminary approval on this, or?
What's our resolution of this here?
Well, I'm the one who mentioned it, and it's in the middle of the house, in the middle of the property. No one will ever see it. It's not perceivable. It was just my train of thought of how I got there.
I think it was a really good comment, it is in the middle of the property, and from our point of view, maybe it doesn't matter. But as architects who do this stuff, all the time, a lot of us feel that maybe that would be, certainly should study that, lowering it down. You really might like it.
I will be happy to do that.
Yeah. So we could. Bernie, do you go?
I don't really have any comments. I was just wondering, is there anything else that we can do to tweak it to be responsive to some of the neighbors' concerns in terms of what we have?
I mean, the privacy is an issue, and I think that raising the windows up solves the privacy problem. Okay. You don't stand and look out of especially in the tub, you don't step into the tub and look out a window that's way up high.
And were there any neighbors concerned about the decks or anything?
Well, the deck is a long ways from the property line, and it more than meets our guidelines. It's I don't think that I don't feel like we have any grounds to not consider that as being acceptable where it is. It's a deck. They go out there and look at the ocean, but it's not big for the house, and it certainly is located appropriately. I think we're ready to move this, and the landscaping looks good.
I think so.
I think stone on that wall would certainly be nice. On that.
Mr. Chair, we don't have our landscape design people here, do we? So maybe we better make sure that that gets
We could.
examined carefully.
We can do a couple of things. We can continue the landscape plan if we wanted to.
To consent for preliminary meeting?
I'm all right with saying preliminary at this review because majority of this improvement is a second-story addition. There's not much landscaping they're doing.
And hardscape.
And it's hardscape they're doing, and I guess I'm confident to say that it's being done right because the way it's
got
being
a planter with a little bit of flowers
discussed.
there and a little bit of stuff here. But it's mostly all hardscape.
But there's also the issue with how close it is to the
with
lot.
these bushes. So then in the motion, it will say to study, or to provide additional information about these plantings, and that'll be reviewed at final on consent.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion for preliminary approval with final on consent with the following comments. On the second floor, the applicant will raise the sill height of the windows, and the final height will be determined at the consent. Will be reviewed with the consent. Applicant is encouraged to provide skylights in lieu of windows along that elevation. Applicant is to study the fascia height of the stair tower and consider lowering it.
Yep.
And the third is landscape architect is to review the landscaping on consent along the
species and size and
west property line, species and size
for appropriateness.
For appropriateness.
And making the neighborhood findings of
Yeah, I was just going to
Thank you.
neighborhood compatibility.
Compatibility with the original architecture, quality materials, size, bulk, and scale, appropriate setbacks, and
appropriate landscaping.
And appropriate landscaping. Consistency, compatibility, and quality materials.
Okay, that's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes?
A couple of minor issues in elevation, maybe. It seems to me that this deck maybe needs a little bit more meat there to support it.
It's got columns out
It's
here.
got a little 6x6.
Maybe 8x8.
Oh, yeah.
8x8.
Yeah, it just needs a little bit there. And then the other comment I had has to do with the landscaping plan, is if we could see what this element is.
We want to see that, yeah, the detail.
In elevation and...
There's a name for those things, it's a Scottish name of some kind. It's some kind of a thing that people would get married under them. It's some kind of...
Cupola or
No, it's not a cupola. No, it's something else.
Not a pergola.
No, not a pergola. They've got one out at Montecito Presbyterian Church.
But if you have
they
one,
know the name of it.
you don't have to get married under one, do you? You don't.
You might be able to rent it out.
Can I add the two more comments to this? One of them is that the applicant is to study the deck support and the high fire concerns or construction requirements.
Let's just say increase the size of
Okay.
8 by 8 minimum.
And then the applicant is to provide additional information for the entry pavilion.
We'll call it pergola.
Okay.
Entry pergola.
All right.
Good.
All right, no, so I was just going to say that the colors are matching the existing colors, is that correct?
Are you going to change colors on it?
Bring a color board?
Existing is a white or an off-white, and I'm going to keep it white or off-white. It's going to be, that's...
And it's going to
that
be
and the
Santa Barbara sandstone.
So another item is to bring for final is the color board for the files, even if it is
all
existing to
materials.
match.
Absolutely.
And if there's any new exterior lighting, tear sheets of that. Yeah. And let's see if there's anything else we can pick out here that might be
Doors and windows will
the.
with wood, so that...
This is all existing, right? You're
Correct.
putting new stone on here. You can't see it from the street, this house. I think it's going to be very nice.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. And there's a 10-day appeal period. Thank you for coming and giving us your comments. We think we have solved your privacy problem, and we appreciate your concerns and your neighbors' concerns. So we'll see you with finals on consent.
Indefinite?
Indefinite.
Indefinite continuous.
Okay.
The
Thank you.
sooner the better.
Yes.
Put yourself back on the consent calendar whenever you're ready.
Great.
To
Thank
go
you.
in to get you'll be ready to get a permit.
Yep.
Details and structural, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. This one has the landscape in it, Tony, if you want this one.
Okay, seeing no other items on our agenda, we will stand adjourned.